Chapter 101, The 8 New Hunters. Hearing Netaro's words, Hanzo was stunned for a moment, and then he thought he was lucky that he passed by forfeit. This way, he wouldn't have to fight now and wouldn't get tired if he lost his match. He thought that Netaro saw his potential and valued him. After Netaro's announcement, Killua walked to the center of the venue with his hands in his pocket while Badaro walked to the stands with a serious expression. Different from Killua, who was a 12-years-old kid, Badaro was a middle-aged man that is old enough to be Killua's father. He was also a martial artist. In the original show, Killua went crazy due to Illumi's influence and attacked and killed Badaro when Leorio was fighting him. Illumi and Killua didn't face each other since this time. Illumi didn't drop his disguise. He won't attack Killua or reveal who he is now. The reason he revealed himself in the original show was to make Killua admit defeat. Since Illumi won't be fighting him, so there was no need for him to show himself. So now, Killua was mentally stable and quite rational. He won't kill Badaro. "Come on, kid," Badaro said. "Uncle, I'll let you attack first," Killua said with his hands inside his pocket. He didn't put Badaro in his eyes. As a martial artist, Badaro found Killua's comment full of disrespect, and with a cold snort, he immediately sent his palm toward Killua's chest. Killua avoided his attack without effort, making Badaro attack again. Killua continued evading Badaro's attacks as all the latter could hit Killua's afterimage. This was one of Killua's technique, shadow steps. It's a move that is most suited for assassination, but it can be used to avoid attacks as well. Badaro wasn't bad. He was a well-known martial artist with 20 years of experience but faced a professional assassin with high talent like Killua. He wouldn't be able to do much. "Uncle, it's my turn now." Killua flashed with his shadow steps and quietly appeared behind Badaro. Badaro's expression changed slightly, and before he could react, Killua sent him flying. Killua activated his elder abuse mode and started beating Badaro without letting him fight back. But Killua was merciful as he didn't attack him with all of his power. Whether it was strength, speed, or reflex, Badaro was beaten in all aspects. However, he still didn't admit defeat. His reason was simple: as a well-known martial artist, he has his own dignity and pride. He wasn't willing to lose to such a small monster who didn't hit puberty yet. If he admits defeat, he won't be able to show his face in the martial arts world again. Killua noticed this and reminded him, "Uncle, if you give up now, you will still have a chance to fight later, but if you don't, I will attack seriously and at that time, let alone fight, you might have to spend some time in the hospital." As he said this, Killua released his killing intent. His target was Badaro. As a professional assassin, Killua's killing intent was potent that it made others feel their impending death. Badaro felt death near and could only sigh and said, "I admit defeat." "A wise choice, uncle." The killing intent disappeared without a trace as Killua's expression returned to normal. Netaro directly announced, "Killua wins, please come up to get your hunter license." Killua put his hands on his pockets and walked with a relaxed face. He took the hunter license from Cheetle and returned beside the others. "Well, for the remaining 3, how about we have a rodeo between you 3, and when someone is defeated, the other 2 become hunters. Is there someone who has something to say?" "I do." Pakal stood up. Netaro said, "You again, what is it this time?" Pakal glanced at Hanzo and Badaro and said, "I'm maybe the weakest out of the 3, so if we use that new rule, I will most likely lose, so why not follow the previous rule, which sounds fair, . Netaro thought for a while and said, "No, we will use the new rule." Pakal was speechless and wanted to say another thing but was denied. This made him curse Netaro in his heart, but he couldn't do anything as Netaro was the association's chairman. Quickly, Badaro, Pakal, and Hanzo stood on the stage in 20 meters circle. The 2 remaining in the circle will become hunters, while the one thrown out will be disqualified. Soon, the battle started. Pakal and Badaro seemed to have agreed, and as soon as the match started, both attacked Hanzo. One attacked from the right and the other from the left. Hanzo became serious as he felt the danger. He avoided Badaro's palm and attacked Pakal, who retreated immediately and aimed an arrow at Hanzo. Whoosh! He shot an arrow at Hanzo, who easily avoided it, but at this time, Badaro rushed from behind and sent a double palm strike at his back. Hanzo leaped up and shouted, "Ninja art, shadow clone." 2 Hanzo stood on the stage. One of them was a clone, one rushed at Badaro, and the other ran at Pakal. Both of them were fast. In the blink of an eye, they were in front of Pakal and Botaro. Boom! At the same time, Botaro and Pakal were knocked out by Hanzo. Everyone saw both Pakal and Botaro out of the circle at the same time. Hanzo did a great job as he knocked both of them out at the same time. Hanzo, who was still in the circle, showed a winning smile. If they didn't team up against him, he wouldn't have knocked both of them out like that. They were asking for it. Therefore, in the match that was supposed to let 2 passes, only 1 passed. And like this, the 287th Hunter exam came to an end. 8 people passed the exam. They were Allan, Gon, Kurapika, Illumi, Chrollo, Hisoka, Killua, and Hanzo. Netero stood up and announced to everyone. There will be a celebration banquet at 8 tonight in the hotel next to the association building. It for our new hunters to get to know their colleagues. Netero then looked at Allan and the others and said, if there is a problem, you can choose not to go. Kurapika directly asked Allan, Allan, are you going? Allan replied, although the chairman said that it was a celebration banquet for the 8 of us, it is like a meeting between colleagues, and if we don't go, we will be hated. Killua said, there are a banquet and free food. If you don't have anything else, you should go. That's it. We should go and take a look. After saying this, Allan continued, I'm going to the hospital to see Gon. He would like to go as well. Hearing this, Kurapika and Killua both wanted to visit Gon as well. At this moment, Hisoka raised his hand and said, President, I have something to do so that I won't go. Is it urgent? Netero asked. Hisoka smiled. I just don't want to ruin the fun. Netero said, Hi, what a silly person. Okay, Hisoka, you can leave first. Netero's tone wasn't like it used to be of that gentle old man, as Hisoka not going was like not giving him face. And like this, Hisoka was the first to leave the room. After this, Chrollo directly said, Sorry, Chairman, I have something to do as well, so I won't go. Netero was getting dissatisfied now and asked, Is it urgent? Chrollo smiled and said, My companions are still waiting for me, I must go meet them, so I can't go. Netero said in displeasure, Can't you let them wait? This banquet is specially made for the new hunters. Chrollo said, I'm really sorry. Netero waved his hand. Chrollo was second to leave the room. Is there anyone else who can't attend? Netero asked with displeasure filling his face. I can't go as well, I have something to do, so I can't stay here, Illumi said. Netero frowned and said, Is it an urgent matter? Illumi nodded and said, Well, I have to assassinate someone before midnight, so I can't really participate. Netero nodded slightly and said, So you're an assassin? Yeah. Illumi nodded. He was still hiding with that disguise of his, so except Allan and Hisoka and the ones Allan told, no one knew who he was, not even Netero. However, when he was walking out, he suddenly walked toward Killua. Killua became vigilant for a moment as he stared at Illumi. The aura around him made Killua feel inexplicably familiar. You, what do you want? Killua, you still didn't know who I'm? Illumi said in surprise. At this moment, even his voice changed. Killua's expression changed when he heard the familiar voice. He looked at Illumi nervously and asked, Could it be that you're Illumi? You have to call me Big Brother, Killua. As he said this, Illumi pulled the needles from his face. Finally, he revealed his real face in front of everyone. Black hair, black pupil, and a very handsome face. Killua suddenly turned pale and said in horror, Big Brother. Chapter 102, Getting rid of Illumi's control. Illumi looked at Killua expressionlessly and said, It's been a long time, Killua. Why are you here, Big Brother? Killua asked in fear. Because there is a mission that requires the hunter's license, so I came here to get one. The other reason is that our father told me to follow you. I heard you hurt Mother, so father asked me to bring you back to apologize to Mother. Hearing this, Killua shook his head and said, I don't want to go back. Illumi said, That's not something for you to decide. This is father's order, and of course, mine as well. I don't want to go back there, don't force me. Killua lowered his head and clenched his fist while struggling. Illumi coldly said, Killua, do you want to disobey father and me? Killua shook his head, I respect father and you as well, but I don't want to go back, I want to stay with my friends. Friends? Illumi's eyes narrowed as he glanced at Kurapika and Allan. Allan said, "Don't look at me. Killua is mostly referring to Gon." Illumi looked at Killua and said, "Killua, you are an assassin. You don't need friends." Hearing this, Killua hesitated before he said, "Don't you have friends as well, big brother?" Illumi replied, "Are you talking about Hisoka?" "Yeah." Killua nodded. "Killua, I don't have a pure friendship with Hisoka, unlike you and Gon," Illumi explained. Killua lowered his head and whispered, "I really want to stay here, please don't force me to go back." Illumi heard him and said, "Don't disobey orders, Killua." With this, Illumi extended his hand, and instantly, Killua started trembling all over. As if there were a pair of hands controlling him. Illumi looked at Killua and ordered, "Killua, go take the airship back, and I will talk with father. As long as you be obedient, father won't punish you, and mother will forgive you." Kurapika was scared when he saw Killua. Illumi was going too far, and he couldn't just watch this unfold without doing anything. "Hey, what did you do to Killua? You are his brother, right? Why does he seem so afraid of you?" Illumi looked at Kurapika and asked, "Are you his friend too?" "I think I am," Kurapika replied. Although he didn't know Killua for that long, they still got along well. Illumi snorted coldly, "If you are his friend, then please stand aside obediently and don't interfere in our family's business." Kurapika replied in a deep tone, "I don't want to meddle in your family's affair, but Killua is obviously terrified of you, and he doesn't want to go back. If you are his brother, you can't force him like that." With a wave of his hand, Illumi sent a few needles into his body. In an instant, Kurapika's entire body was paralyzed. Illumi coldly said, "I will spare your life this time because you are Killua's friend, but if you start talking again, I will kill you." Seeing that Kurapika was injured because of him, Killua gritted his teeth and said, "Don't attack my friends, I will come back with you." Illumi instantly smiled and said, "That's good." Seeing Killua being taken away by Illumi, Kurapika looked at Allan and said, "Allan, are you going to sit back and watch?" Hearing this, Allan frowned. To be honest, he really didn't care about this. After all, it was a family affair, and he had nothing to do with it. However, he knew why Killua is so afraid of Illumi. It was mostly because Illumi planted a small needle into Killua's forehead to manipulate him. But if Allan helped Killua, it would offend Illumi, and it wasn't worth it right now. At this moment, the system interfered in Allan's stead as it gave Allan the incentive. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Help Killua take out the needle in his head and get rid of Illumi's control, but you may offend Illumi. Reward, 6 powers. Rank Yaku. 2. Be a bystander, but you might lose Killua and Kurapika's trust. Reward, 6 powers. Tekai. Allan sighed. He originally wanted to avoid this, but he decided to help now. Although he might offend Illumi, Allan currently wasn't afraid of him. Furthermore, with Hancock here, she is enough to kick Illumi's behind. But it was still not worth it to offend Illumi now, so he thought about a way to help without offending Illumi and getting the reward. He looked up and saw that Killua was about to leave the room and directly flashed in front of them. Illumi frowned and said, "Allan, what do you want?" Allan shrugged and said, "Nothing, but I just remembered that I have a question for Killua. Can I borrow him for 2 minutes?" No, Illumi directly refused. Allan knew that he would refuse, so he smiled and said, "Then, how about I exchange one favor with this? You lend me Killua for 2 minutes, and one of the favors is dropped. Is that a good deal?" Illumi thought for a while because, as an assassin, owing others favors isn't good for business. And now, he owes Allan 2 favors. Since lending Killua would drop one of the favors for 2 minutes, it's indeed a good deal. He didn't have to do anything, and the favor will be written off. He looked at Allan and said, "Well, just 2 minutes. Thanks." Allan directly pulled Killua to the side and called Hancock to block the view between them, which made her think, what a terrible man, he wants this empress to block the view. But she still did it in the end. 2 minutes weren't short or long, and that's all the time Allan needed. He looked at Killua and said directly, "Killua, listen closely, I will help you get rid of your bother's control over you. I hope you will cooperate." Hearing this, Killua said, puzzled, "What do you mean? Are you going to help me deal with my big brother?" Allan shook his head and said, "No, I'm going to make the long story short. Actually, there is a needle in your head right now. Illumi put it there to control you. That is the reason you are so afraid of him. Now, what I'm going to do is help you take that needle out from your head, and your brother won't control you anymore. Killua was doubtful because he didn't feel anything abnormal at all. As a professional assassin, no one should know his body's condition better than himself. But now, Allan actually said that he had a needle in his head. However, he knew that Allan's seriousness, he believed him a bit, and he always wondered why he was always afraid of Illumi. Killua, do you believe me? Allan asked. Killua nodded, although I don't understand this very well, I know you won't harm me. Okay, then you do as I tell you to take that needle out, Allan said. So, where is this needle exactly? Killua asked. Allan said, the needle should be in the center of your eyebrows. It shouldn't be too deep. Use your hand technique to sharpen your fingers and look for it. However, be careful not to insert it further and cause brain damage. Killua nodded. Although it seemed impossible to remove a needle without surgery, Killua's assassination skills were superb, and it wasn't that difficult for him. After all, he could easily remove a human's heart with his bare hand without said opponent's knowledge. Killua took a deep breath and started looking for the needle inside his forehead. After a few seconds, Killua whispered, "Found it." After finding it, Killua removed it in less than 2 seconds and raised his hand in front of him to look at the golden needle. "Is this the needle that Illumi inserted in my head?" Killua asked with surprise. Killua knew that if it weren't for Allan, he wouldn't even know about this needle's existence, let alone remove it. Allan checked the needle using Gyo and found a lingering Nen from Illumi. "Yes, this needle controls you and dominates you. It makes you feel fear toward Illumi. But it's okay now since you removed it." Killua nodded and looked gratefully at Allan. "Thank you, I won't forget this favor." Allan waved his hand, gesturing that it was okay and he was welcome. At this time, Allan heard the system's voice that he came to enjoy. "Ding! You successfully helped Killua take out the needle from his head, freeing him from Illumi's control. Reward, 6 powers. Rank Yaku." After learning how to use Rank Yaku, Allan looked at Killua and asked, "Now that the needle is taken care of, you still want to go home?" Killua nodded, "My family is a bit special, I did sneak out this time and injured my mother in the process, so I have to go back and apologize." "Okay, take care of yourself." Allan didn't say anything else as Hancock said, "That man is here." Allan looked up and saw Illumi arrive. He looked at Allan and said, "The 2 minutes are up. I will take Killua now." Allan shrugged, "Go ahead." Killua cooperated with Illumi. He was surprised that he didn't fear Illumi like before. Although he was still fearful, it was his instinct warning him, nothing else. Of course, Killua didn't show it. He acted very obediently, or else Illumi might discover what they did. Killua believed that Illumi would put another needle again. That is the reason why he decided to act as if he was still under Illumi's control for the time being. He wasn't worried about being discovered by Illumi, as the latter would only use that needle when Killua is disobedient. And as long as Illumi doesn't use it again, he won't know that Killua has taken it off. "Goodbye, Allan, Kurapika. Please tell Gon that I bid him farewell. I hope we meet again in the future," said Killua before leaving. He gained a lot from his trip. He managed to get a hunter's license, becoming a professional hunter, and he also made friends, which made him satisfied. After seeing Killua leaving with Illumi, Allan took Hancock and left. Kurapika frowned and asked, "Allan, what did you say to Killua?" Although he still followed his brother, he didn't seem as afraid as before. Allan was surprised by how observant Kurapika was as he managed to pick the little changes in Killua. After all, even Illumi didn't notice the change. Allan briefly explained how he helped Killua take out the needle Illumi used to control him. Kurapika frowned and said, "I didn't think Killua's brother is such a terrible guy. He actually wants to control his brother like that." Allan shrugged and said, "That guy is a super brocon after all." Chapter 103, Visiting Gon. Allan brought Hancock, Kurapika and Hanzo to the medical center to visit Gon. Gon was happy about the visit, but he was stunned when he saw Hancock. "Allan, who is this beautiful Oni-san? Why haven't I met her before? Is she your friend?" Allan smiled and nodded. Unexpectedly, even the simple-minded Gon was stunned by Hancock's beauty. "Gon, she is my fiancée. You can call her Snake Princess." Allan explained it to Gon. She's a princess. Gon looked at Allan in surprise, and she is your fiancé. Allan nodded and took Hancock's hand and said, yes, look, I even gave her an engagement ring. Wow, a pretty diamond ring! Gon exclaimed. Although Hancock was dissatisfied with Allan's nonsense, she didn't say anything to refute his words. She can't control her body if she resists, and most importantly, she liked the diamond ring. Hanzo was irritated and said, when I save enough money, I will go find a beautiful fiancé for myself as well. Speaking of which, why did Killua come here? Gon asked confusion. He thought that they were good friends. Killua even surrendered in their fight, which means that Killua regarded him as a real friend tool. So Killua not visiting him now made him worried. Kurapika and Hanzo were a little hesitant about telling him, but they left that responsibility with Allan in the end. Allan directly explained what happened to Killua, making Gon quite angry at Illumi. He sat up from the bed and said, I'm going to find Killua. Don't be impulsive, Gon. Yes, Gon, Killua went back willingly. It's better for us to not interfere in their family. Moreover, Killua's family is special. They are a family of assassins. If you go by yourself, I'm afraid that they will treat you as an enemy, and at that time, let alone seeing Killua, you won't even get out alive. After some discussion, Gon was convinced that he shouldn't look for Killua. Gon, Chairman Netero held a banquet at the nearby hotel so that new hunters can get to know their peers. Do you want to participate? Yes. Gon nodded. Okay then, rest for now, and we'll come to get you later. Okay. After leaving Gon's ward, Allan took Hancock and went to his room. He couldn't wait to eat the ice fruit. Hanzo and Kurapika followed Allan for a bit before asking, Allan, now that the hunter exam is over, regarding your promise, when are we going to begin? What is it? Allan was a little puzzled. Kurapika suddenly became embarrassed and said, Allan, didn't you promise to teach Kurapika and me how to use Nen? Allan remembered that promise, but he completely forgot about it as he was focused on the ice fruit. Allan thought for a bit and said, okay, you should find Leorio, and I will teach you both. Kurapika nodded as he didn't have any problem. Then, I will leave for now. Allan was in a hurry to eat the devil fruit already, but at this time, Hanzo spoke, please wait. Hi, you're still here. Hanzo was speechless of a bit, my presence isn't that thin, okay. Allan didn't both talking nonsense and directly asked, what's the matter? Hanzo glanced at Kurapika and scratched his head, and said with embarrassment, well, can you teach me Nen as well? Allan was stunned. He didn't expect Hanzo's request. His relationship with Hanzo wasn't that good, which is why Hanzo was currently embarrassed. Seeing Allan not answering, Hanzo knew that he was pushing his luck, but he still said, I know that this request is presumptuous, but I admire your power and hope you can teach me. I promise that I will do my best. At this time, the system gave him a choice. Ding! Make your choice. 1. Promise Hanzo to teach him the Nen of Flame. Reward, Swordsmanship, Flying Slash. 2. Refuse Hanzo's request. Reward, increase Nen by 2000 points. Allan's eyes flashed as he saw the Flying Slash. For the sake of that reward, he looked at Hanzo and nodded. Well, since everyone knows each other, I will teach you. I will be your teacher from now on, so you better be obedient. Of course. Hanzo rejoiced. He admired Allan's strength, even more when he fought him and believed that Allan could teach him well. Although he didn't know anything about Nen, he noticed one thing about it. Once you learn it, you will get stronger. So when will we start? Hanzo asked. After Kurapika finds Leorio, Allan answered. He didn't want to teach them one by one as it is too time-consuming. He already promised 3, and adding Hanzo wasn't a problem. The real problem is that Illumi took Killua away, so he can't teach him for now. What should I do now then? Hanzo asked. Gon is still in the hospital now. I think he is quite bored. If you don't have anything to do, you can accompany him to relieve your boredom. Okay, I will go then. Hanzo didn't say anything else and returned to Gon's room. Then I will go contact Leorio, Kurapika said. Okay, go ahead. After dismissing Kurapika and Hanzo, Allan looked at Hancock, who was looking at him silently, and asked, what? You didn't see anyone as handsome as me before. Humph, This empress is just thinking about who you are. Also, what is that thing that Baldy was talking about with the blonde? Why didn't I hear anything about it? Allan smiled, of course you don't know about that. You're not from here after all. Hancock frowned and asked, so, what is here exactly? Do you want the truth? Of course I want the truth. Allan shrugged. The truth is, you aren't in your original world. Hancock's expression changed when she heard this. What did you say? Allan spread his hand and said, it means that in this world, although there are pirates, it isn't the same as where you come from. There are no Shishibukai, no Yonko, no world government, no marine headquarters, and no celestial dragons. Although there are seas in this world, there is no Grand Line. Then, where is my country, how can I go to Amazon Lily, and where are my people? Of course, none of them exists here, Allan said simply, but this had a huge impact on Hancock. No, I don't believe that. That's impossible! Hancock exclaimed. This was too shocking for her, and she couldn't believe it. Regardless of that, Allan said, listen well, Hancock, this is another world entirely. Another dimension I call the hunter's world. Here the main profession is the hunter's profession. That's why no one knew about you. What? Hearing this, Hancock gritted her teeth. Then, how did you bring me here? What is your purpose? Hancock asked grumpily. Of course, I summoned you. I don't have any purpose in summoning you. I just wanted to try. You bastard! Hancock wanted to kill him, and if she could, she would have already killed him. Allan smiled slightly, sorry, I was too straightforward. Rest assured, as long as you listen to me, I will send you back. After, I'm a person who keeps his promise. A dollar hole. Hancock glared at Allan. Even though you're angry, you're still beautiful. Allan smiled while Hancock still glared at him. You bastard, this empress will kill you someday, Hancock swore with gritted teeth. Chapter 104, Eating the ice fruit in a high-end restaurant. 2 hours later, Allan stretched his back after massaging Hancock. Hancock was looking coldly at Allan. Allan smiled and said, don't look at me like that. You enjoyed it too. Upon hearing this, Hancock blushed and turned her head with a snort. She was indeed resistant at first, but later, Allan's massage techniques improved, and she could only relax. The proud empress couldn't help admit that the feeling was comfortable. She even had some inexplicable thoughts. However, as a Shishibukai, she had her arrogance and pride. So even though she felt uncomfortable, she didn't want to show it. Ding! Congratulations for successfully conquering Hancock and completing a hidden achievement, Charm Master. Reward, physical strength doubled, endurance tripled, charm attribute increased by 8 folds. Allan instantly felt his power increase a lot. Most of all, he feels like he can do it 10 times now. Immediately, Allan looked at the Empress again. The Empress was initially staring at Allan, and for some odd reason, she felt her heart throb as she looked at his eyes. What's going on? Am I being tempted by him now? Hancock felt her heart beat faster, and finally, she blushed and looked down, not daring to look at him directly. Allan was taken aback by this. He didn't think that the charm increase would have such drastic results. Well, why are you staring at this Empress? Hancock said in a low voice without her normal arrogance. Allan smiled, nothing, you are so beautiful Hancock, I can't help but look at you more. Of course, no one can match this Empress beauty. Hancock blushed, and her heart was in chaos because she discovered that Allan's praise made her happy. Hancock, let's go for another massage. Hancock didn't speak, and it looked like she agreed. But she felt really strange because she obviously wanted to refuse, but the words couldn't come out of her mouth. Seeing her reaction, Allan smiled as Hancock wasn't as arrogant as before to him, and she started to fall. 5 hours later, Allan took Hancock to a restaurant near the association to enjoy a meal. It was a high-end restaurant, and people who came here are either rich or nobles. Excuse me, sir, do you have a reservation? A middle-aged man in a suit asked at the entrance of the restaurant. Allan frowned and said, who are you? My name is Robert. I'm the manager. Allan said, I didn't have a reservation, can't I get in? Upon hearing this, the manager said, I'm really sorry, the restaurant regulations state that you need a reservation made at least half a day in advance. I'm sorry, but you can't enter. If you don't mind, you can go to the cafeteria on the first floor. Allan frowned. It was troublesome just to eat a meal here. Although the manager was polite, he is stubborn and will act according to the rules. I won't be able to buy him with money. After all, being a manager for such a restaurant means that he is well off himself. Manager, is there really no way? Allan said. I'm really sorry, sir, but I can only abide by the rules. Even if the president of the Hunter Association comes, he needs an appointment in advance to eat here. Manager Robert explained. His tone was sincere and humble. That's why Allan couldn't get angry at him. With a sigh, Allan prepared to take Hancock to another place. However, Hancock stood up and pointed at Robert with her arrogant pose and said, "Insolent man, this empress is here to eat, you should be honored, but instead you want me to make a reservation." As soon as Hancock spoke, she drew Robert's full attention and made his eyes almost fall off his head. Amazing! This is the most beautiful woman I ever saw in my life! Robert exclaimed in his mind. There is no shortage of beauties coming to this restaurant, but someone like Hancock was a rarity. No, rarity is an understatement, as Hancock is one of a kind, and no other woman is as beautiful as her. She was too beautiful to make her leave. Robert came back to his senses and quickly said, "I will arrange a place for the lady, please follow me." "Done, let's go." Hancock glanced at Allan. Allan smiled. Even when she's so willful, she is beautiful. Just as Allan was about to go with Hancock, Robert said, "Sir, what is your relationship with that lady?" Allan said, "She's my fiancée, why are you asking?" "What?" Robert was taken aback and couldn't believe such a thing. "Is she really your fiancée? What are you talking about? Don't you see how good we look together?" Allan said irritably. Although Allan's handsomeness wasn't as high as Hancock's beauty, he was still up there. "Madam, is what he said true?" The middle-aged manager looked at Hancock as he didn't want to give up. "What do you mean?" Hancock glanced at Robert before she went up to Allan and hooked her arm with his, admitting their relationship. Robert glanced at Allan enviously and said, "Sir, you are so blessed to have such a beautiful fiancée. I hope you treat her well." "It's not up to you," Allan said. Robert smiled embarrassedly, then took Allan and Hancock to the restaurant's best location and gave them a couple of top-class dishes for free. Allan didn't refuse a free meal and enjoyed it with Hancock. Hancock was silently eating with a bowed head. Allan saw this and directly smiled. "Hancock, I didn't expect you to take the initiative to grab my hand. Do you like me?" Allan teased. Hancock immediately blushed hard and explained, "This empress was hungry and didn't want to look at another place to eat, so I cooperated with you, don't get any wrong idea." Yes, you are the proud snake princess. How could you like someone like me?" Hancock was already a mess right now. She initially hated Allan and wanted to kill him, but as she looked at Allan's smiling face and piercing eyes, she couldn't hate him. Moreover, at first, Allan was the epitome of the man she hated from the start, but now, she saw him as a handsome, stalwart and sweet man. She felt something special from him when he looks at her, and when he calls her Hancock, she felt electrocuted, and her heartbeats sped up. I'm going to the bathroom. Do you want me to accompany you?" "No, I know how to go." Seeing Hancock leaving, Allan smiled. He had absolute control of Hancock and wasn't afraid of her leaving him, and he also read her thoughts and found out that she almost in love with him. She was going to the bathroom just to calm herself. "I think I should eat that now." Allan suddenly remembered something really important. Suddenly, a strange fruit appeared in his hand. Allan took out the ice fruit from the inventory to eat along with the meal. He put it on an empty plate, took his knife, and cut it into 4 pieces. As long as someone ate 1 bite of a devil fruit, he will gain that devil fruit's ability without the need to fully eat the rest. Allan picked a piece and brought it to his lips before eating it. He frowned at the taste, which was exactly how it was described. However, to gain the ice fruit ability, he can tolerate the horrible taste. At this moment, Hancock came back, and seeing the leftover of the devil fruit on Allan's plate, she immediately recognized it. "Why is there a devil fruit here?" Hancock wondered. "No, you're wrong." Allan lied and felt a little guilty doing so. He didn't want to admit that he enjoyed a devil fruit alone while his fiancée went to the bathroom. I'm not. That's a devil fruit, Hancock said again. Allan denied, no, it's not, this isn't the same world as the one you're from, so how can there be a devil fruit here? This is just an ordinary fruit. Hancock said, this empress already ate the marrow fruit, so I can tell by the fruit's appearance. Although each fruit is different, that texture is only present on a devil fruit. This is just an ordinary fruit. If you don't believe me, you can eat a piece. No, this empress already ate one, and if I eat another one, I will explode. Also, there is a 3-piece, and one is missing, which means you ate one piece of the fruit, and now the rest is just an ordinary bad-tasting fruit. Because the devil fruit loses its effect as soon as someone eats even one bite of it. Allan was stunned by Hancock's knowledge of devil fruit. Well, it is a devil fruit, and I already ate some of it, so I gained its power. Allan could only admit it even though he wanted to keep a low profile. Hancock looked at him fixedly and asked, I want to know where did you get that devil fruit, and also what kind is it? Logia? Zoan, or Paramecia? And what can it do? Where it came from is a secret that I won't tell you about now. As for which type it is, you will know it when you see it, but don't forget to pick your jaw after I show you. Under the expectant gaze of Hancock, Allan touched the table with his finger, and instantly, the tabletop was frozen in an instant. Hancock was really surprised and looked at him in the face. This is the ice fruit of Admiral Aokiji? Did you eat that fruit? Allan snapped his finger and smiled, bingo. Since your answer is correct, I will reward you in the evening. Chapter 105, Testing Ice Fruit. Ice devil fruit was one of the top Logia fruits in One Piece, like the magma and lightning. Whoever has this fruit can freeze the sea. When the freezing ability is developed to a certain extent, it can change the natural environment and climate of a country. Allan ate that kind of devil fruit. Furthermore, he has armament haki, observation haki, and conqueror haki, which made him as strong as an admiral from One Piece. No, he is stronger than an ordinary admiral since he had other abilities like flash steps, his swordsmanship, and Leaf's taijutsu techniques. Hancock was quite surprised that Allan had that fruit, and what made her even more surprised, Allan seemed to have good control of that ability. As far as she knew, anyone who gets an ability as strong as the ice fruit won't be able to control it so well as soon as they ate it. Aside from that, she knew for sure that Allan got the ice fruit, but there is no way a fruit will be duplicated, and Aokiji had that fruit, which made her wonder how did Allan had the ice fruit. As far as I know, no devil fruit had the same ability as another one, and the only way to obtain a certain fruit is to kill the current user and wait for it to form again somewhere in the sea. Could it be you killed Aokiji and took his fruit? Allan shook his head in denial, I didn't take it from Aokiji, but you don't need to know where I got it now. Although Hancock was curious, she didn't ask again. Allan wasn't going to say that he has a system that can give him awesome rewards. Right now, he couldn't wait to find some place to try the ice fruit's power. He could feel that he was really strong right now. He felt that he could freeze a few miles with a wave of his hand. The devil fruit ability was stronger and more convenient than turning his nin into ice. Not to mention, the greatest function of a Logia fruit is turning into an element. That is something Nin can't do. He is immune to physical attacks. Furthermore, even if he encountered a transmutter like himself, that latter's attacks won't affect him unless it's his counter element. Just when Allan was quietly thinking about the advantages of the ice fruit, he heard a voice from the side. Hey beauty, do you want to enjoy a drink with me? Allan looked up and saw a blonde man inviting Hancock to a drink. The blonde was quite handsome. There were 2 bodyguards behind the blonde man, who made Allan conclude that the blonde wasn't an ordinary person. At this time, many people noticed the blonde and started whispering amongst each other. Look, isn't that the big star Edward Wells? Yes, that's him, he seems to be after that black-haired beauty in Cheongsam. The beauty they were talking about was, of course, Hancock, and this Edward Wells was the blonde man. From the moment Hancock entered the restaurant, the guests were glancing at him and never stopped. But those guests were somewhat polite and had common sense, so they just looked from a distance and didn't dare come to talk to her. However, Allan didn't expect that someone would have enough courage to actually talk to Hancock. Seeing that Hancock ignored him, the blonde was embarrassed and said, "Oh, I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm Edward Wells, you should know me from the two movies Love in the City and Flowers of Tomorrow, I starred in both. However, Hancock didn't spare him a glance as she looked at Allan as if nothing else there mattered. No, she occasionally looked at the food as well. She was the same arrogant Hancock that didn't put anyone in her eyes, and currently, not many could make her pay attention to them. So, do you want to join me for a drink? Edward still asked again. Disgusting fly, get out of this Empress sight. Hancock suddenly said with a disgusted expression without even looked at Edward. Edward froze for a moment, as he didn't expect the other party would say he was disgusting and describe him as a fly on top of that. Suddenly, malice flashed in his eyes, but he still squeezed a smile and said, I just wanted to buy you a glass of wine, nothing else. At this time, Allan, who was sitting across Hancock, stood up. Originally, he thought that this person would have enough self-respect and go away after being rejected. He didn't think his skin would be that thick and still bothered Hancock, which made Allan a little unhappy. She told you to go away. Are you deaf? Edward moved his gaze toward Allan with a gloomy face and said with polite words, but angry tone, Sir, what did you just say, did you call me deaf? And you want to me go away? It looks like you're not deaf after all. Allan sneered, since you're not deaf, scram, or you will regret it. Ha 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 ha, are you threatening me? Oh, it's not a threat. It's a warning. Allan said coldly. What if I don't? What can you do to me? As soon as Edward said that, an invisible force instantly fell on him. His eyes rolled back as he fell to the ground, knocked out. Suddenly, the whole restaurant erupted in an uproar. The guests were horrified while the bodyguards rushed toward Edward. Edward-sama. The bodyguards almost fainted as they saw Edward on the ground, then they looked at Allan. Although Allan didn't do anything, they weren't fools. Edward fainted for no reason, but Allan must have done something. What did you do to Edward-sama? One of the bodyguards stepped forward and put a hand on Allan's shoulder to question him. However, the moment his hand touched Allan's shoulder, the latter sneered and used his ice ability, turning the bodyguard into an ice sculpture. Another uproar filled the restaurant as the guests looked at Allan in horror. They didn't understand how the bodyguard turned into an ice sculpture, but they were impressed. The second bodyguard directly pulled out his gun and aimed at Allan, and said, You, what have you done? Are you someone who can use Nin? Oh? You actually know about Nin? Allan said with slight surprise. Then he smiled and said, But, you don't know how to use it. The bodyguard gritted his teeth and said angrily, Damn it! No matter who you are, this is the Hunter Association's jurisdiction, and Edward-sama is related to the association, don't think you can get out of this. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Go ahead and shoot. Allan wanted to try the immunity he gained from the ice fruit. The bodyguard was in business for more than 10 years. This is the first time he heard someone urge him to shoot. If you don't shoot me, I will attack. Allan pretended to raise his hand to attack, and the already nervous bodyguard directly pulled the trigger. Bang! Suddenly, a bullet hit Allan's body and directly passed through his chest. However, there was no blood out of the wound. Instead, ice condensed from thin air and repaired the hole. Even his clothes were intact. Allan smiled in satisfaction. Monster! The bodyguard saw this and looked at Allan in horror. Bang! He shot Allan twice, but the same weird thing happened, and the two holes closed up like it was nothing. At this time, the bodyguard almost peed his pants as he turned around and ran out of the restaurant. Want to escape? No way! Allan sneered and thrust his foot on the ground, sending a cold force into the ground that traveled directly toward the running bodyguard. As soon as he stepped out of the restaurant, he was caught and turned into an ice sculpture. Hancock looked at Allan in surprise. The ice fruit should be really hard to control, she could understand from the previous time Allan showed her his ability that he can control it well, but she didn't expect his control to reach such high in such a short time. After all, using a ranged ability and not losing control and freezing everything around him the first time he used this ability for real was an accomplishment. But it wouldn't be that surprising if she knew that Allan had experience in manipulating ice before he got the ice fruit. Although the power and effect were different, it still laid a good foundation for the ice fruit. Let's go. Allan took Hancock's hand and walked out of the restaurant under the jealousy of almost every male there. As for Edward Wells, and his bodyguards, Allan didn't really care much. After all, he didn't want to just kill him because he made him unhappy. If he was a threat to him, he would have killed him, but Allan didn't put him in his eyes. Chapter 106, Complains about 287th Hunter Exam. The banquet for the new hunter will be inside a 5-star hotel that had 66 floors and was 500 meters away from the Hunter Association. Allan took Gon and Hanzo along to attend the banquet that was hosted by Netero. Hancock naturally followed along as she was Allan's fiancée and could go wherever she wanted. However, apart from Allan, Hanzo, and Gon, no other new hunter was present. Crollo, Hisoka, and Illumi left early. Karapuka went looking for a way to call Leorio, and Illumi took Killua with him when he left. So only 3 out of 8 new hunters are participating in this banquet. However, they were the center of attention because they looked young, especially Gon. Hanzo and Allan were adults, but Gon looked like a kid. For 3 youngsters to pass the harsh hunter exam showed their potential. However, they were arrogant and didn't bother even getting closer to Allan and the others, while Allan took Gon and ignored them. He only attended this banquet to give face to Netero. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come. Many people were present, even the 12 zodiacs that were present in the exam, along with the examiners. However, Pariston wasn't amongst them this time. Many hunters wondered about the reason Netero held this banquet. Only a few of the people present knew the real reason for this banquet and the real situation inside the association. After the banquet started, Netero came out and arranged for Allan and the others to sit beside him with the examiners from the last exam. Satos, Menchi, Boera, and the others, along with Mizistem, Kanzei, Cheetle, and the others. Halfway through the banquet, the reason for this banquet was revealed. This banquet was held because there was no fresh blood in the association in the last few years. Various hunters were disappearing in strange accidents every year, and no new recruits took their place. Although the test was there to recruit new people, it was a harsh exam that only a few could pass. There are even a few years where no one could pass the test with a 100% failure rate. This led people to question the Hunter Association. Netero was criticized many times by many high-ranked people because the test was getting harder each year, and due to this, he was being pressured into stepping down as the chairman. But this year's exam was different. Finally, 8 new hunters passed the exam. This allowed Netero to secure his position as the chairman of the Hunter Association. Many hoped that the new recruits could bring prosperity to the Hunter Association, and this was the main reason Netero held this banquet. Because he saw the future of the association in the new recruits. However, some people still raised questions. Many were talking in the audience as their eyes fell on Allan and the other 2. After all, Netero seemed to exaggerate when he said that the future of the association is with those new recruits. Seeing that Allan, Hanzo, and Gon were so young made them frown. Since they were young, it wasn't wrong to doubt their strength. Therefore, everyone here raised their doubt without hesitation. Suddenly, a man smoking a cigar stood up and said, "What bullshit is this about the 287th exam having the future of the association? I question the examiners who made the exam so easy that 8 passed it, even a kid did." As soon this was said, an uproar broke into the hall because this guy didn't just almost insult the examiners, but Netero himself. Because, in the last exam, Netero was the one who checked the integrity and difficulty of the tests. In other words, Netero made the exam easy. That's why so many people passed. Many were discussing amongst each other now. Damn, why is that guy talking nonsense? Hanzo gritted his teeth angrily, how dare he question us? Who is he to question us? Allan, what do you think? Gon asked calmly. Allan didn't say anything and just gazed at the man who spoke. This man had a big beard and was crossing his legs smugly. Obviously, he was proud of his questions. By his side, many hunters were already raising the same questions. After a while, Allan looked at Cheetle and asked, "Cheetle-san, who is that?" Cheetle answered, "His name is Adolf. He is a 1-star bounty hunter and often questions other. He belongs to the vice-chairman's faction and very close to him." "So, does Cheetle-san suspects that Pariston is behind this?" Cheetle nodded, "Well. Yes, I think Adolf is doing this to question chairman's power, which Pariston would benefit from." "What is his purpose?" Cheetle made a guess. Although the president is the highest person in charge of the association, Pariston has many supporters. Therefore, with chairman's decline in power and reputation throughout the association, Pariston can compete and get the position of chairman. Allan frowned. If what she said is true, then it means that this Pariston is smarter than he was originally. While Allan and Cheadle were still talking, Menchie suddenly slapped the table and angrily, Adolf, you are saying that we made the test easy. Do you have any evidence? If not, then close your mouth and obediently sit down. As soon as she said this, the audience was silenced. Many people looked at Menchie with fear. Although she was young, she was strong and temperamental, so most people didn't want to offend her. Menchie was one of the examiners. She was a food hunter, so her test naturally tested them on food, but it wasn't an easy test, and she didn't allow people to pass if they weren't the ones who made the dish. That's why she was angry and shouted at Adolf. Adolf glanced at Menchie and sneered, he, so it turns out you are amongst the examiners. No wonder so many people passed. I really don't understand why Chairman Netero would appoint someone like you as an examiner. Did you just say someone like you? Did you say that? Menchie gritted her teeth as Adolf mocked her. If it weren't for the fact that many hunters were present here, she would have already rushed toward Adolf and taught him a lesson. Adolf sneered, Menchie, I don't look down on you, but you're too young, and it's been a few years since you became a hunter. I don't think you're qualified to be an examiner. Someone needs more experience to be an examiner, and if Chairman Netero let someone like you control a test, then it's no wonder that so many people passed. So, you think that I'm not qualified to be an examiner? Menchie said angrily. She was okay with questioning her, but to despise and belittle her, that she can't tolerate. I'm a one-star food hunter, and I was studying food before I even became a hunter. In terms of food, how many people in the association can match me? I asked about food naturally, and although the difficulty wasn't very high, it was high. So tell me, why I'm not qualified to be an examiner? I have already said you're too young and no experience to be an examiner, Adolf said with a sneer. Bastard! Menchie couldn't bear it. I will teach that shameless fellow a lesson. Suddenly, Nan exploded out of her body. Even though she was a food hunter, it didn't mean anyone can underestimate her. Seeing this, Adolf didn't show any weakness, although I don't want to beat a woman, you're a savage, and I won't mind beating you. Allan was planning to watch, but suddenly, a system choice filled his head. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Help Menchie and teach Adolf a lesson. Reward, increase Nan by 3000 point. 2. Be a bystander and turn a deaf ear about what's happening. Reward, 10 million ring. 3. Issue a 1v1 challenge against Adolf, defeat him in front of everyone and erase everyone's doubt using your strength. Reward, Magic Jar x1. Magic Jar? Allan didn't want to take part in this, but since there is a reward in front of him, he didn't want to let it go. He immediately said, Menchie-senpai, please calm down. Let me deal with this. That guy said that we helped you guys becoming hunters by cheating. I can't let that go. Menchie said. It doesn't matter who questions it. I can assure all the senpais present that you didn't show any favoritism. Hearing Allan's words, Menchie was stunned as she didn't expect Allan to stand up and defend them. At this time, Adolf raised a question again, Hi? Who knows if you aren't colluding together? Since the examiners made it easy to pass, the candidates would be grateful. And since we didn't see you take the test, you can say whatever you want. Allan didn't get angry and just asked, what should we do then? I think we should cancel this year's qualification and take your license and make you take the exam again. If you pass this test, then everyone can see that you passed it yourselves without help. Many started discussing Adolf's suggestion. However, many examiners saw this, and their expressions sank. If they remade the exam, then it will be as if what Adolf is saying is true. Menchie and the others directly stepped forward to refute Adolf's suggestion. Satos directly said, conducting another test will not only consume a lot of resources, but it will also waste everyone's time. That kind of proposal is stupid. Adolf sneered, don't make excuses. I think you are just feeling guilty and don't want to hold another test, so you don't get exposed, right? Menchie said, you just want to cause trouble. Adolf sneered, look, you are angry because I guessed it right. At this time, Allan said, Adolf-san, what do you think is the priority for someone to become a hunter? In other words, which part is the most important for a hunter, is it knowledge, wealth, or strength? Of course, it's strength. Adolf said, if an examinee doesn't have enough power, he will not be qualified as a hunter. Hearing this, Allan smiled and said, so, senpai, since you think that strength is the most important in being a hunter, then, surely our strength should be far apart, right? I have a suggestion. Let me represent the candidates who passed this year and fight with you. As soon as he said this, many became upset. Adolf started at Allan coldly, are you challenging me in a one-on-one match? Allan shrugged, I just want to prove it to you. Since you think strength is everything, then I can only challenge you in strength. Adolf's face was gloomy as he said, don't be a too proud kid, you are just a new hunter and can't even be called a trainee yet. What qualification do you have to fight me? Allan wasn't angry at all. He just raised his mouth and sneered, Adolf-san, are you afraid of losing to a newcomer? That's why you don't want to fight. Bastard! Adolf clenched his fist and gritted his teeth, then said to Allan, okay, I will fight you. I will make you regret your decision and show you how far you are from being a hunter. Don't blame me for being merciless. Hearing this, Allan smiled and said, Adolf-san, you seem confident in your strength. Adolf said coldly, I won't be merciful. Allan nodded, and his face turned cold, since you're my senpai, I will let you attack first. Arrogance. Adolf's forehead was blue with veins as he rushed toward Allan and the match started. Chapter 107, Armament Haki. Adolf rushed toward Allan, who stood still, which confused many onlookers. Is this guy so afraid that he couldn't move? Many had the same thought, and only a few people who witnessed Allan's power were calm. Adolf threw a fast punch toward Allan, who didn't move until the last second and avoided it in the end. Adolf's confident face changed to surprise, not because Allan avoided his punch, but because he did it effortlessly. He continued attacking relentlessly, and Allan avoided each punch the same way, leaving an after-image behind due to his speed. Allan's observation haki read all of Adolf's movements easily, which made avoiding his punches simple. Adolf was getting frustrated as he couldn't even land a hit on Allan. The more he fought, the angrier he got. Suddenly, an erupted from Adolf's body. An enhancer. Allan squinted as he remembered the last enhancer he faced, Ryuudan. From the Nen he released, he wasn't weaker than Ryuudan. Allan knew that a professional hunter is just a general term, and each hunter has a specialty, like bounty hunter, relic hunter, food hunter, and so on. Among them, the bounty hunters and crime hunters were prominent, and that's because there were many criminals in the world that needs strength to deal with. When Adolf released his Nen, Allan could tell that his speed and strength increased greatly. Enhancers can increase their power and speed with Nen, so their fighting style is crude and simple, and their strongest weapon is their fist. They can easily smash rocks and lift tons. That's why enhancers were most suited for close combat. Adolf took advantage of this and attacked Allan with all his might. The hunters moved to one side as they watched the fight with interest. Among them is Netero, who watched the fight with interest instead of stopping them. The other hunters were also looking at the fight with interest. Because of the doubts raised by Adolf, many of the onlookers were doubting Allan's power. At this moment, Allan's performance is directly related to whether Netero's claims are right about the 287th exam passers or not. While Adolf was attacking Allan, the latter's performance already proven them wrong. As a new hunter, Allan can face Adolf, who was going all out, and this certainly can prove that Allan was as strong as an experienced hunter. Adolf was amongst the top 50 in the Hunter Association, and now, a newcomer was able to hold his ground against him. There is no need for doubt anymore. Now, even if Allan admits defeat, the others won't question him. But Allan had no intention of admitting defeat. Only a few people could tell who was stronger currently. At this moment, Adolf seemed to push Allan back, but Adolf couldn't even land a hit. His fierce attack missed the target. No, it's not that it failed, but Allan avoided all of it. Why can't I hit him? Adolf was confused, while the onlookers were surprised. They could tell that Adolf's speed was enough to hit Allan, but Allan could avoid his attacks. Even members of the 12 Zodiacs were surprised. They have seen Allan's match against Hanzo, and the former was currently using the same strategy. No matter how much Adolf attacked, he never managed to touch Allan. Did that Allan see through all of Adolf's attacks? Payan the Rabbit Zodiac exclaimed. Jinta, also one of the 12 Zodiacs, replied, yes, Allan has seen through all of Adolf's attacks. No, Adolf fell into Allan's rhythm from the start, which allowed Allan to play with him. As a result, his attacks became more and more urgent as he wanted to end the fight quickly. In other words, Allan's true power is much higher than Adolf's. Payan was a little surprised as she asked Jinta, who replied, I think so. Unbelievable. Payan looked at Allan in surprise, so, isn't he strong enough to challenge us? Jinta, can you defeat him? Jinta shook his head, I don't know if I can beat him. But, you're strong, Payan said with a hand on her chin. Jinta scratched his head and said, Allan didn't just see through Adolf's attacks. He also perfectly dodged each one, which means he is faster. If I were fighting Adolf, I wouldn't be able to do the same feat. Therefore, Allan is faster than I'm. Payan looked at Jinta before sighing, yes, your body is too big and heavy. You can't move that fast. Well, I think you would have the advantage when it comes to strength. Mysystem interjected, if you can't land a hit, no matter how strong you are, it will be useless. Hearing this, Jinta smiled awkwardly as what Mysystem said was true. Even if your strength is superior, you won't win if you can't land a hit. The current situation with Adolf was the best example. Even though Adolf was an enhancer who should be stronger than Allan, he couldn't land a single hit on Allan. Adolf was frustrated as he shouted in anger, damn it! Don't hide like a mouse, you coward! Okay. Allan also thought it was almost time to end this. He raised his mouth slightly in a smile and said, if that's what you want, then I will attack. In the next second, Allan's figure disappeared and reappeared behind Adolf. Adolf reacted as fast as he can and turned around to see a black hand gleaming in the light falling on him. The fist landed on Adolf's chest, directly bending his breastbone. Boom! Adolf was sent flying like a cannonball as he was knocked out. The audience fell into silence. They took several seconds to react and finally realized that Adolf was taken down in one punch. The onlookers were in shock as they broke out in a heated discussion. He's fast. Moreover, that power isn't something normal people can have. He knocked Adolf into the air, even though the latter is an enhancer. Is that guy a monster? Allan wasn't just faster than Adolf. He was also stronger, even though the latter was an enhancer. As for the person himself, Allan was a little surprised by the power armament hack he had. It was his first time using it, and he didn't expect such strength. Ding! You defeated Adolf in front of everyone and face-slapped those who questioned your strength. Reward, Magic Jar. Note, the reward is transferred into the system's inventory, and host can take it out anytime. Allan checked the inventory and saw a black pot resembling a clay pot. According to the description, the magic jar is a type of treasure chest. As long as he smashes the jar, he would get a random reward. At this time, Adolf got up from the ground and placed his hand on his chest. Allan's punch actually broke a few bones, which made Adolf look at Allan in disbelief. He could help ask, this is impossible, how are you stronger than me? Are you an enhancer as well? Allan shook his head. He didn't use Nen at all. He simply covered his fist with armament haki. But Adolf's suspicion is understandable since armament haki was so powerful, it made everyone think that Allan is an enhancer. Only an enhancer can have that kind of strength, but Adolf didn't feel any Nen, which made him even more shocked. If he isn't an enhancer, did he even use Nen? Was that attack pure physical power? Adolf was almost going crazy. Allan didn't say much. He wasn't stupid. After all, this wasn't an anime anymore. He wouldn't talk about his ability to a potential enemy. He didn't even use his most powerful trump card, which he originally wanted to use, but considering the surrounding, he abolished such thoughts as it may cause some risks in the future. If others knew about his ability, people might think of a way to counter it, so he didn't want to expose himself yet. At this moment, Gon and Hanzo came over, and the latter directly said, "Good job." Gon exclaimed, "I knew that Allan would win." Allan smiled and said, "No one would question us now." It's indeed true. No one looked down on Allan and the others after seeing Adolf's defeat. Menshi came over and patted Allan's shoulder and said, "Boy, good job. I've been angry with Adolf for a long time, and your punch vented most of that anger away." Sato's came over and said, "Allan, have you been getting stronger? You way stronger than before." Allan glanced at Sato's, who was extremely observant, and nodded. After all, with the system, it wasn't difficult to get stronger. And the power he showed was just the tip of the iceberg. If he used the ice fruit, Allan was sure that only a handful of people in the association would be able to match him. Someone like Adolf wasn't enough to even enter his eyes. If Allan was serious, he would defeat him in seconds. Seeing Allan's confidence, Satos said, "Allan, you have a huge potential. I can tell that you will be the representative of the new generation of the Hunter Association. Work hard. Chairman has a high expectation from you." Hearing the second half of the sentence, Allan was taken aback. He looked up at Satos and asked, "Satos-senpai, did Chairman say anything?" Satos smiled, "The Chairman just praised you slightly in front of the 12 zodiacs." Hi. Allan was confused. But he still could guess. In other words, the Chairman is very optimistic about me and may arrange about me to be part of the 12 zodiacs. Satos nodded, "Well, I don't rule out that possibility." Hearing this, Menshi patted Allan's shoulder and said, "Wow, kid, your future is bright." "Ahem, what bright about it? Is being a member of the 12 zodiacs profitable?" Allan replied. Menshi said, "Who's talking about money? Your vision is quite short. I mean, if you enter the 12 zodiac, then maybe you can become the chairman in the future." "You're exaggerating, Menshi-senpai," Allan said. Menshi replied, "I'm not exaggerating at all. The 12 zodiacs are all qualified to compete for the seat of the chairman. If you can join them, you will have that qualification as well." Chapter 108, Netero's Invitation. Allan just smiled at Menshi and didn't take her words seriously. Entering the 12 zodiacs isn't an easy thing, and even though Allan is a super newcomer and has the qualification to be a member, he knew that his achievement wasn't enough for that. And defeating a one-star bounty hunter wasn't something to be proud of. Even if Netero is optimistic about his future, he can't just become a 12 zodiacs member. After all, each member had a certain qualification that he should meet. Furthermore, Allan never thought of becoming a member of the 12 zodiacs. Becoming a professional hunter was enough. "Allan, the chairman is looking for you." At this time, Cheadle came over and said. "Looking for me?" Allan scratched the back of his head and asked, "Why is he looking for me? Is it because I injured Adolf-senpai?" "You're overthinking it," Cheadle assured. "Even if someone wanted to settle the score with you, it wouldn't be the chairman." Allan knew this, as the one who would deal with him is Pariston. When it comes to scheming, Pariston was a master. As for his power, it should be alright since he could become the vice-chairman. Allan then asked, "Why is the chairman looking for me then?" "I don't know. However, based on what I know, it seems like he is itching for a fight." Cheadle guessed. "Itching for a fight?" "Yeah, simply put, the chairman wants to fight you," Cheadle explained. Allan froze. "Fight? Probably because he saw your battle and decided to spar with you." As a member of the 12 zodiacs, Cheadle knew Netero very well. "Is this a joke?" Allan exclaimed in his mind. "So Chairman Netero wants to fight me?" Allan murmured. But thinking carefully about it, Allan knew that Cheadle's guess was spot on. After all, he knew Netero was a battle maniac. He liked the challenge, and even though he seems like an idiot at times, he spends his entire life pursuing martial arts and always welcomed a challenge. However, because he was too strong, he didn't have anyone to challenge him anymore. Although his strength declined due to his age, he was still the strongest known figure in the world. And now, such a monster wants to fight him. Allan first thought about slipping away as he didn't want to fight against a monster like Netero, but his 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva is the strongest known ability in the world so far. His attacks were so fast the Miruem could only get slapped by it. Such a speed would render his observation haki useless. And the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva power wasn't something the current him could defend against. He didn't even know if the elementalization of his devil fruit would work or not. All in all, Allan didn't want to fight Netero. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Promise Cheadle to meet Netero in the association. Reward, Senzu Bean. 2. Slip away and ditch Netero. Reward, increase Nen by 3,000 points. Senzu Bean. Allan's eyes lit up. The last time he got a Senzu Bean, he had to give it to Gon. Allan decisively chose the first option and decided to go see Netero. Ding! You have obtained a Senzu Bean. The reward has been stored in the inventory. Allan directly took a look at it. He bid farewell to Gon and Hanzo before he took Hancock along and then followed Cheadle to the association. Cheadle was a little envious of the seemingly close relationship between Allan and Hancock. Suddenly, Allan stopped ahead of him, and someone blocked the road. He was a tall person with a cigar in his mouth. It was Adolf, who came looking for Allan for revenge against the previous humiliation. "Adolf, we need to go," Cheadle said in displeasure. She was a member of Netero's faction, while Adolf was someone under Pariston, so she wasn't polite at all when talking to him. Allan smiled disdainfully and said, "Is there something you need?" "You," Adolf looking at Allan gloomily and gritted his teeth, "the duel at the banquet was my carelessness. Let's fight again, and this time, you won't be able to sneak attack me again." "Sneak attack?" Allan's smile receded as he said, "Do you really think that you lost because I sneak attacked you?" "Yes." Adolf nodded. "So you want to fight me again now?" "Yes." Adolf grinned coldly, "If you don't want to fight, then you won't leave this place." "Excuse me, I'm going to see Chairman Netero, and I don't have time to fight with you." Allan waved his hand and didn't pay attention to Adolf. However, as soon as he finished his words, the system intervened. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Beat Adolf down. Reward, increase NN by 1000 points. 2. Mock Adolf and crush him completely with your strength. Reward, Marine 6 Power Soru. 1000 points were too little, which made Allan take the second option. Looking at Adolf, Allan shrugged and said, "Since you want to be beaten so much, then I will reluctantly fight you. This time, I will fight head-on. We will use our fists to determine the winner." Adolf sneered at Allan's proposal. "Do you want to directly attacks? Don't regret it later. Don't you know my title?" Allan shook his head, and Adolf directly announced proudly, "It's Adolf the Iron Fist." Allan puckered his ear and said, "Well, let's see whose fist is stronger." Suddenly, Adolf unleashed his Nen before strengthening his fists. "Come on!" Adolf punched with all his power, while Allan didn't release his Nen from the start. He raised his fist and greeted him with armament haki covering them. As soon as the fists collided, a small shockwave spread. Since Adolf was an enhancer, his fist was indeed hard after he used Nen to strengthen them. "See, my iron fist isn't weaker than your black fist." Black fist. Allan was speechless as his armament haki was described as a black fist. Ignorance was terrifying. "I didn't use my full power yet," Allan said. "Really? Then come on, Adolf of the Iron Fist, won't lose to a newcomer." As soon as Adolf's voice fell, Allan has already raised his hand, clenched his fist hard. Busashoku, Kaka, armament type, hardening. Adolf's face was full of disbelief as his face was smashed. He flew away and hit the ground. Allan didn't forget to taunt him now, "Is that all?" At this time, the system's notification echoed in Allan's head. Ding! You successfully crushed and mocked Adolf. Reward, Marine 6 Power Soru. Soru was a speed movement technique that requires its user to step on the ground 10 times in the blink of an eye. The user would disappear suddenly and appear seemingly teleporting. Allan didn't feel the need to learn it, but having it was better than nothing. Because skills were like money, you won't have too much of them. After walking for a few minutes, Allan and Cheadle reached the association building and directly went toward Netero's secret room. "This is the martial arts hall that the chairman used for mediation and practice," Cheadle explained. Netero was already waiting inside the room wearing sportswear while meditating. Allan squinted his eyes as he observed Netero's body. "Snake Princess, can you please go out of the room? I have something to discuss with Allan." Hearing this, Hancock replied arrogantly, "Bald old man, don't order this empress around." "Haha." Netero smiled and said, "This old man is indeed bald. After all, when people reach a certain age, their physical functions will decline. This is a fact in the world that no creature can escape. But I could live for at least 100 years. At that time, you will also be an old woman." "Rude old man, this empress's beauty is eternal, and my body will never age," Hancock said with slight anger. He, yes, that eventually will happen. After all, there is no beauty in this world that can withstand the passing of time. If there is, I really want to see it." Netero laughed. "Well, Chairman, maybe you can see it," Allan said. Netero was already over 100 years old, but Allan knew that with his current body and power, it wouldn't be strange for him to live another 100 years. However, Hancock didn't know how horrifying Netero could be. "Hancock, please go out first with Miss Cheadle, and wait for me." Allan directly decided to comply with Netero. Although Hancock was slightly upset, she obediently left the room with Cheadle. "He, the Snake Empress only listened to you." Netero's words were full of envy. Allan smiled and said with triumph, "After all, I'm so attractive. But I guess when the president was young, you must have attracted quite a few girls, right?" "Haha, it's okay. When I was young, there were indeed a few girls around me." Netero laughed. Allan nodded. He didn't think that Netero was bragging at all. After all, this guy was so powerful when he was young, and it's normal for him to have a few girls around him. "Speaking of which, where is Chairman's wife?" Alana asked suddenly. "This old man is married," Netero said. "Liar." "Hi." Netero didn't expect Allan to question him suddenly and was startled. Allan then said, "I guess that you were married, and maybe you have a child somewhere." Netero's expression changed slightly, and Allan picked the change, but he quickly regained his calm expression. Netero coughed a couple of times with guilt and said, "Allan, this old man is alone, how can I have a child?" "Haha, I just guessed, since Chairman said he was popular with the ladies when he was young." Allan remembered that Netero had a child named Beyond Netero. After Netero died, Beyond jumped out and made a public appearance. Moreover, he was quite ambitious, as he has always wanted to explore the Dark Continent. Netero stared at Allan for some time, then smiled. "Ha ha ha, when I was young, I had some romance for a while. Maybe I have some child out there." Allan didn't say anything as Netero was trying to hide his son. "By the way, Chairman, why did you ask for me to come here? It isn't for a simple chat, right?" Netero smiled and turned serious, "I want to fight you." Allan was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Netero to be straightforward. "Don't take me for an old man. When I was young, I defeated many people, how about it? Are you interested in a spar?" Netero said. Allan thought for a while and was about to answer, but suddenly the system gave him another choice. 1. Have a fight with Netero. Reward, increase NAN by 10,000 points. 2. Reject Netero. Reward, increase NAN by 5,000 points. 3. Embrace your warrior soul and fight with everything you have against Netero, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, go all out. Reward, the 8 inner gates, Hach Iman Tong Kao, dot. The 8 inner gates. Allan's eyes lit up as he looked at this reward. The 8 inner gates technique, almost the strongest technique in Naruto. When Mato Guy used it, he could defeat all Kage and even Madara. If Allan has this technique, he could walk like he owns the place anywhere in the world. Of course, this technique has its risks. The more gates you open, the greater the side effect on your body. If the 8 gates were fully opened, the user would die in the end. But that doesn't make it any less awesome. After thinking about it, Allan picked the last option. He will fight Netero with everything he had without holding back even a bit. Seeing Allan staying silent, Netero was slightly anxious. "What do you say, Allan? Do you want to fight this old man? If I enjoy the fight, I will even let you enter the 12 zodiacs." Allan didn't care about Netero's offer. All he cared about was the 8 inner gates technique. He raised his head and said, "Chairman, as the strongest person in the world, it's my honor to have a fight against you. I can't refuse such honor." Netero squinted and smiled, "Hehe, it's rare for a young man to be so humble. It seems I didn't judge you wrongly. Then, come on, President." Allan took off his black suit and flung it aside while assuming a fighting pose. Netero also got serious and folded his hands together and said, "Then come, Allan." Chapter 109, All Out. Allan flashed as if teleporting, and the next second he kicked Netero using Leaf Strong Whirlwind along with Armament Haki. Netero's eyes flashed as his palm moved slowly toward Allan. But time seemed to stop as the palm moved while Allan is still in the air. Suddenly, terrifying shockwaves spread out like a hurricane as the whole room trembled. Netero was surprised by the black-colored kick and looked at Allan with curiosity. Allan's power exceeded his expectations. Allan's heart was beating like crazy after his strongest physical attack was blocked so easily by Netero. What a crazy old man! He is too strong. Is he really in his hundreds? again. Netero laughed. Okay, here I come. Allan nodded. He knew well that Netero was letting him attack, so he didn't shrink back and attacked. Armament type, hardening. Allan clenched his fist, and his arm instantly turned black. Allan instantly unleashed the strongest punch he could master at Netero while the latter was grinning. I knew I was right. You are so young and promising. Netero looked at Allan in appreciation as he lightly sent a palm strike toward Allan's fist. His palm glowed with a golden light that seemed strong enough to lighten up the world. A golden palm met with a black fist. The moment they collided, the black and the golden light intertwined as a great shockwave burst out. After the fierce collision, Allan directly pulled back and retreated 10 meters from Netero. Allan looked at Netero seriously as he reached a certain conclusion, which was, the damn old man is way stronger than I expected. Allan knew that if he competes with Netero using Nen, he would have lost already. Thanks to his armament haki, he could at least challenge him slightly, even though Netero could end the fight anytime if he was serious. At this moment, Netero suddenly asked, Allan, your fist is so strong because of that black energy coating them, right? It's called armament haki. Allan didn't hide anything. It can freely cover any part of the body like Nen, and this can improve the offense and defense of the user. So, it can be used like Nen, but it isn't something produced by Nen, right? Yes, the armament haki isn't produced by Nen, but the two are somewhat similar to each other. Then, come again, I want to see which is better, this armament haki, or Nen. Netero exclaimed. Then, here I come, Chairman. Allan instantly flashed out and appeared in front of Netero with armament haki covering his fist. Netero sent out a palm with Nen covering it and strengthening it. The black fist and golden palm kept flashing out as they collided at a high speed, causing an explosion from time to time that could be heard all over the association's building. Allan was using Soru and flash steps at the same time, which resulted in extreme speed that left after images behind while Netero's speed didn't lose to the former. The black fist and golden palm collided for the 100th time, but neither of them was hit. From time to time, a bodhisattva would block Allan's attacks, but despite that, Allan didn't cease his attacks. His greatest advantage in this fight is his body, which should be more durable than Netero's old aging body. Of course, if Netero was serious, Allan would be on the floor almost as soon as the fight started. Allan continued his attack, kicking and punching Netero with armament haki covering his limbs. Suddenly, Allan sent a flying slash by kicking the air using Rankyaku. The slash was black, unlike the usual blue because Allan used haki along with it increasing its power. This attack should be enough to force Netero to use another get slightly serious. Netero's eyes flashed slightly as a golden bodhisattva's arms suddenly appeared behind him and blocked the attack. At this time, Allan stood in the air using moonwalk as if waiting for an opportunity, and almost as soon as the attack collided with Netero's bodhisattva's palm, Allan rushed down. He sent another toward Netero's back. Feeling the attack from behind, Netero suddenly flashed out, and in the next moment, the Rankyaku slammed on the ground, creating a deep gash on the ground. That seems dangerous. Netero looked at the deep gully on the ground as if sighing in relief because he wasn't hit. Allan frowned slightly, as Netero's reaction was quite fast. Netero's avoiding the Rankyaku didn't mean he couldn't stop the attack. Allan wasn't that naive to think he could face Netero and defeat him. However, the power needed to dodge an attack was far less than the one needed to block it. From this, it is clear that Netero wasn't a brainless fighter. Allan started sending Rankyaku attacks all over the place, hoping to prevent Netero from dodging. Sure enough, Netero's eyes flashed as he clasped his hands together. Immediately a faint golden light burst out from his palms, forming a curtain covering him. Boom! 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 The Rankyaku slashes continuously slammed into the curtain, which caused ripples as if the curtain was made of water, but nothing else happened, and the curtain remained strong. As soon as Allan touched the ground, he once again fierce kicked the air, and this time, another slash quickly formed out and moved toward Netero at a high speed. The slash assumed a bird shape as it moved toward Netero's golden curtain. Break it! Allan's figure flashed as he once again sent another slash with all of his power. Inside the curtain, Netero's felt a slight pressure, but he didn't move, and in the end, the golden light around him repelled Allan's attack completely. Sure enough, it failed. Seeing this, Allan sighed. He used all of his power, but he still couldn't break through Netero's defense. However, Allan stopped that train of thoughts. After all, he was fighting the world's strongest here. Only a few people could even dream of matching him. Even though he was old and his power declined, his nin was as strong as ever. Your moves are quite interesting and powerful. I was a little overwhelmed. Netero said. He wasn't exaggerating, as he believed that Allan's techniques were quite interesting, fierce, and held a lot of power. And he could tell that none of his attacks used nin. It's like another system of power independent of nin. This made him feel strange, and he couldn't help asking Allan. Allan, can you tell me, what were those moves? Of course. Allan smiled slightly as he wasn't afraid that Netero could steal his moves. The air/I used just now is from what is called Rankyaku, from the 6 powers. There are 6 techniques, which are quite apparent from the name, and each one is different. The movement technique I use is called Soru, which generates quite the speed. The upgraded version of this technique is Moonwalk, which allows me to fly, and as for the other 3 techniques, I still didn't learn them yet, so I can't tell you about them. Hehe, it's okay. He admired Allan, who was unreserved about his abilities, and smiled slightly. Aren't you afraid that I will learn those techniques? Or do you have something to counter them? Allan shook his head and said, if it was someone else, I would really worry, but if it's you, Chairman, I won't have to worry about that. Because you are stronger than I'm, moreover, my techniques are suitable for me, I don't think others can learn them. Therefore, worrying about this wasn't necessary. He's really good. Netero smiled and asked with interest, then, do you have any other abilities? Show me what you got. Of course, I have. If Chairman wants to see, then I must go all out. Allan showed confidence on his face, which meant he had an ace up his sleeve. Come on then. I will take it seriously. Netero smiled. Here I come. In the next second, cold air started filling the room as the mist formed out of nowhere. Allan's ace was the ability of his devil fruit. The first thing he needs to do is turn the battlefield into a natural advantage. Ice field. With Allan as the center, ice spread all over the room, freezing the ground and the walls around very quickly. The room turned into an ice cube. In 3 seconds, the room was completely frozen. The ground, walls, ceiling, corners, and anything in between were sealed in ice. Allan looked at the freezer he created in satisfaction. He now had the home advantage, battlefield advantage. This is a battlefield specifically created to benefit and increase the power of his ice fruit. Allan wasn't confident enough to defeat Netero, but he would try his best to do so. At this moment, Netero is standing on the ice looking at the ice-covered room, and his face showed a serious expression. Finally. Chapter 110, 100 Type Guanyin Bodhisattva. Ah! This is terrifying indeed. You turned the entire room into a world of ice. Netero looked at the room with slight seriousness. He can feel the power in the ice, and if an ordinary person was here, he would freeze in 10 minutes, enter a coma in 30 minutes, and turn into an ice sculpture in a day. But Netero wasn't an ordinary person. Far from it, he was the strongest man in the world. Netero frowned as he could feel the pressure this time, but he was excited as well. Now, this old man can be serious. The power Allan showed made him excited. He started flexing his muscles as if he was warming up. Netero is definitively a martial arts idiot. After stretching for a while, his body adapted to the new environment. Allan stood still while maintaining some distance from Netero. This is a fair showdown. That's why Allan didn't attack when Netero was getting ready, or else he wouldn't get the reward from the system. Okay, Allan, I'm warmed up. You can attack me with everything you have. Okay then, here I come, Chairman. Allan looked at the excited Netero for a second before he made his move. Suddenly, ice shot out of Allan's hands directly toward Netero, who was surprised, and although he was prepared for the fight, he couldn't react quickly to this attack. In an instant, he was completely frozen inside a ball. The ice ball was crystal clear, and Netero's figure inside it was clear. At this time, Netero's palm was already stretched as he prepared to counter the attack, but unfortunately, his physical condition wasn't at its peak due to age, so his reflex was slightly weaker than usual. The power behind the ice was terrifying as they froze Netero as soon as they touched him. This move was used by Aokiji when he froze the Whitebeard. The attack is called Ice Ball. Whitebeard and Netero both had something in common. They were both old monsters. Therefore, This wasn't enough to freeze Netero completely. In the next second, cracks appeared in the ice ball from inside out before shattering completely. Ah, that's really dangerous. I froze and almost couldn't get out, Netero said after getting out of the ice. You praise me, Chairman. Allan didn't have time to chat with Netero as he immediately launched another attack. Partisan. Two tridents formed from ice before they tore through the air toward Netero, who wasn't caught by surprise this time as he brought his hand down. This movement wasn't aimed at the tridents. It wasn't aimed at anything at all. But suddenly, a giant golden palm fell down and blocked the tridents. Allan didn't stop an attack and directly spread his hands and shouted. Ice block, 10-finger bullets. In an instant, Allan's fingers turned into a machine gun as he shot ice bullets out of them. Although these bullets were the size of a thumb, their speed and power were astonishing. Each bullet had enough power to penetrate rocks and severed limbs. Netero didn't block this time. Instead, he started dodging the attacks with elegant moves. Ha ha ha, this is exciting, again. While evading Allan's bullets, Netero said happily. Allan knew that he must go all out now. Then here I come again, Chairman. Ice saber. Allan opened his hand and a sword instantly formed in his hand. Let's try melee attacks. Soru, in the next instant, Allan appeared next to Netero and slashed at Netero. Netero's quickly sent a palm out and blocked the ice sword, but a shiver coursed through his body as he touched it. It seems the sword can send the coldness as well. Armament type, hardening, leaf strong whirlwind. Taking advantage of Netero's surprise, Allan directly attacked the former's chest with a strong kick covered in haki. Suddenly, Netero's eyes flashed as a giant golden hand flashed and blocked Allan's kick. Allan's expression changed as he exclaimed, "What?" He hurriedly used flash steps and pulled back without hesitation. Just as he disappeared, a big golden hand fell down where he previously stood. If that palm hit him, he would have been flattened to the ground. The floor broke as the ice covering it cracked. Allan breathed in relief. Netero finally used his 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva. If Allan didn't have observation haki, that last attack would have connected, and he wasn't sure if he would be able to stay alive after that. Allan's complexion changed again as he perceived the slight fluctuation in Netero's body, which was a unique way for him to use his 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva. Sure enough, in the next instant, a big golden hand moved toward him like a bulldozer. It seemed slow, but it was the fastest thing Allan saw until now. If he didn't know it was coming, he wouldn't have responded. Ice wall. Suddenly, a huge, 10-meter-tall wall made of ice rose in front of Allan. This is bad. Allan knew that the wall couldn't hold in front of the giant golden palm and directly created two more walls. The golden palm broke the first wall easily, then shattered the second wall, and was on to the third. At this time, Allan concentrated most of his armament haki onto his hand as he clenched it into a fist. As soon as the third wall broke, Allan used all of his power and punched the golden palm. Lightning seemed to flash as the fist and palm collided. After 10 seconds, Allan retreated while breathing heavily while Netero seemed unfazed. The 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva was worthy of its fame, but Allan blocked one attack from it. Still, Allan consumed too much energy in doing so, as he could tell that 2/3 of his stamina was gone blocking that attack. If he continued to fight with such intensity, Allan knew that 30 minutes later, he will be completely exhausted. Although Netero's physical body deteriorated due to age, the exact opposite happened to his nin. The more time passes, the stronger Netero's nin became. What surprised Allan greatly was Netero using 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva to fight him. Because as far as he knows, 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva was Netero's strongest nin ability. So Netero using it means that he regards Allan as a worthy opponent. Faced with a serious Netero, Allan knew that he mustn't spare any effort. Ice block, ground thorns. Allan slapped his hands on the ground, and directly coldness filled the place. Netero could feel the air around him getting colder and was on guard while looking at the ground. His hunch was correct as sharp spears suddenly emerged from the ground toward him. He instantly retreated back, avoiding them. But the spears didn't stop as they emerged more and more, chasing after Netero, who avoided them all. This is dangerous. Netero stopped moving, and an ice spear directly approached him. In a few seconds, hundreds of spikes filled the room occupying most of it. Netero realized that Allan wanted to corner him and defeat him in one move, so he no longer dodged. Instead, he jumped and sent a palm strike at the ground. Instantly, a huge golden hand emerged and struck the ground. Boom! The ice spikes on the ground were blasted away, and ice crystals fell everywhere. The entire room shook violently under the might of Netero's palm, and the ice all around the room shook and shattered. Allan's pupil shrank at the power of the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva. No, this should be the real power of 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva. Allan created a huge ice wall in front of him to block the shockwave. After the shockwave passed, Allan looked around the room and was amazed by the might that single palm strike had. Chapter 111, Ice Mirrors. Allan didn't dare to look down on Netero with his 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva out. He knew that Netero couldn't use killer moves against him, which was the best assurance he had. After a short break, Allan got up and continued his attacks. Rankyaku, Silver Fox Form. Allan kicked the air and sent an air slash that took a fox form. This was his original technique derived from the Rankyaku and swordsmanship. Netero slapped the fox away, easily destroying it. Taking advantage of the time he bought, Allan used another version of Rankyaku. Rankyaku, Silver Wolf's pack form. Allan quickly kicked 5 times, sending 5 slashes that turned into wolves rushing toward Netero angrily. Netero's eyes brightened slightly as he looked at the wolves. Those attacks are good, but they can't work against this old man. Netero looked at Allan in the distance before slapping the wolves away with ease and smiled. Really? Let's see then, Chairman. Allan sneered. He knew that the Rankyaku attacks couldn't hold a candle against Netero, but he only attacked to buy time for his next move. Netero saw Allan's expression and felt a bad omen. He looked around to release that around him. Countless mirrors made of ice sprung out from the ground, ceiling, and walls. There were hundreds of mirrors and no apparent pattern to them as they filled the room. Those ice mirrors were the same as normal mirrors. Netero could see his reflection on them. As an old man, Netero's eyes shouldn't be that good. Netero had a thoughtful look as he wondered what Allan planned to do. He could feel that Allan planned something, but he didn't know what exactly. Therefore, he raised his vigilance to the highest level and looked at the mirrors around him. At this time, Allan's figure breaks like a mirror before he appeared behind Netero, coming out of a random mirror like a ghost. As soon as he emerged out, Allan used armament haki to cover his leg and kicked Netero, who felt the danger too late. Allan took less than a blink to appear behind Netero, which caught the latter by surprise even though he was extremely vigilant. Boom! Netero was sent flying. As he stabilized his figure, and before he could regain his calm, Allan appeared from another mirror and attacked Netero's side. While approaching Netero, Allan used Zetsu to eliminate his presence and avoid Netero's senses. Once again, Allan's attack connected with Netero. Allan heard a dull crack sound, and he knew that some of Netero's bones broke. Netero's body was sent away like a cannonball, as Allan almost used all of his power in this punch. Allan knew that if he didn't go all out against an old monster like Netero, it would be like insulting him. Oops, it seems that attack was too much. I hope Chairman isn't angry. After that punch, Allan didn't continue his attack. After all, he knew that if Netero took him seriously, he wouldn't last a second. He directly turned into ice and hid inside the mirror, intending to observe Netero's emotion before considering another attack. Oh, my old bones almost shattered. At this time, Netero got up and said jokingly. Of course, he didn't take damage to that extent as he used Nen to block most of Allan's power and he was only slightly damaged. He was filled with joy as he felt real pain after so long. Well. At this time, Netero realized that Allan's figure was gone again. But he guessed what Allan did. He could tell now that Allan was hiding in the ice mirrors, and by now, the old monster should have probably concluded Allan's fruit ability. He also knew that Allan's power wasn't Nen but another system completely. This kind of power is like a supernatural ability. Chairman, I'm sorry, are you okay? At this time, Allan's voice appeared from inside a mirror. He was observing Netero's change, and as soon as he saw him not angry but laughing instead, he directly spoke. Did I hit him too hard and made him silly? Of course, Allan was joking. He knew the real reason for Netero to laugh. It's probably because no one was able to actually hit Netero for a long time. Hearing Allan's voice, Netero turned around and replied, ha ha ha, this old man is okay. It's just that I haven't felt this kind of pain for a long time now. So it's really like that, Hi. Allan once again spoke, Chairman, do we continue the fight? Of course, we need to do that. It's been a long time since I could have this much fun. Netero stretched his arms excitedly. Well then, be careful, Chairman. Allan kindly said. Ha ha ha, come on, this old man will be serious. As soon as Netero's voice fell, Allan appeared behind him again. Armament type, hardening. His fist was covered in haki as he punched. Netero avoided the attack by jumping back without even looking behind. He looked at the ice mirrors vigilantly as he knew that Allan would appear from one of them. Allan was imitating Haku's demonic mirroring ice crystals technique. And since Allan is an ice human, he had more control over ice than Haku. So, the ice mirrors can be easily repaired and rebuilt, unlike Haku's. As for his speed, Allan almost reached teleportation, as he can move between one mirror and another in less than 0.3 seconds. This caused an after-image effect as Allan's figure appeared into all of the mirrors, making it harder for Netero to determine his exact location. Suddenly, Allan launched another surprise attack as his body emerged from a mirror on top of Netero's head. He was holding an ice sword in his hand, intending on piercing Netero's shoulder. However, as soon as the sword touched Netero, immense Nen covered him as he relied on it to block the attack and launch his own attack. Allan already stopped attacking by the time Netero launched his own attack and directly teleported inside a mirror in the wall and waited for another opportunity. He knew very well that with Netero's wits, he could adapt to any situation and deal with it almost instantly. If he launched another attack directly, he knew that Netero wouldn't give him another opportunity. Indeed, Netero already regards Allan as a serious opponent, and therefore, he won't give Allan other opportunities to attack him freely. Once Allan appears, he will instantly attack. Chapter 112, Glacier Dragon. Ha ha ha, sly brat, are you hiding again? After destroying the ice mirror on the ceiling, Netero knew that he didn't hit Alana as the latter must have hidden in another mirror. Those can really make me dizzy. As he said this, Netero sent a palm strike toward the mirrors on the wall while controlling his strength to not destroy the wall. Boom! 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 The ice mirrors covering the walls shattered within 2 seconds, but the wall remained intact. This was Netero's control that reached an extreme height. Soon the ice mirrors that were destroyed recombined into new ice mirrors. The most annoying aspect of the ice mirror is that as long as there is ice, the mirrors can be rebuilt indefinitely. Therefore, this technique can be called ice mirror reassemble. Netero looked at the ice mirror that was reassembled and froze for a second before he said, "This ability is really troublesome." He didn't bother destroying them again because he could tell that no matter how much he destroys them, they will just appear again. It was a waste of energy. Therefore, his only choice was to look for Allan's real body and strike. But Allan didn't appear again since the last attack. Netero knew that Allan was still inside the room if the ice mirrors were any indication. The room was quiet, and Netero could even hear his heartbeat. Netero's hearing was very sensitive. He could hear the jumps clearly. Allan was changing location from time to time to avoid being detected by Netero, and because he is moving in the form of ice, Netero couldn't see him. Allan also knew that even if he made a small movement, Netero would be on him in no time. Therefore, Allan didn't rush. Instead, he waited for opportunities in guerrilla warfare. In a head-on battle, the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva was too fast, and Allan couldn't avoid them even with all of his skills. After a few minutes, Allan noticed Netero relaxing slightly and decisively attacked him. Suddenly, the cold air hit Netero's body and instantly froze him. Netero won't take long before he breaks free again, at most, 3 seconds. No 1 second was enough. Netero needed some effort to get out of the ice, and in that time, Allan adjusted his breath and recovered his strength. He knew that the best way to fight Netero is by persisting as he wasn't strong enough to defeat Netero currently. In short, as long as Netero can't hit him, he won't be defeated. So, he needed to prolong the fight until one of them is beaten, or Netero stops the fight. At this time, Allan's face changed slightly as he looked at the frozen Netero. Netero squinted his eyes, and then cracks formed from inside the ice till it completely broke. As soon as the ice fell, Netero jumped out. "That's really cold. I thought I would freeze to death." Netero moved his arms and neck as the cold made his blood boil. At this time, his face changed as he looked up, only to see a huge pyramid of ice above his head. The point of the pyramid was facing his direction as it dropped down. In the distance, Allan waved his hand down as he controlled the ice to slam Netero directly. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on Netero. Netero's eyes flashed as he stretched his hands toward the ice pyramid. The veins in his hand bulged directly. He caught the pyramid with both hands and said, "Back to you." Netero directly threw the pyramid at Allan, who jumped up and punched it with haki. The pyramid broke apart, and at this time, Allan felt a huge pressure released from Netero. Looking up, Allan saw the huge statue of 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva behind Netero. Allan's face became serious. Coming. Allan's observation haki was stressed to the extreme as he almost foresaw Netero's strike. Sure enough, Netero's attack came in the next second. The huge 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva statue followed his hand gesture and attacked Allan. The golden palm carried an extremely fierce momentum. Boom! However, Allan managed to dodge the strike at the last instant. What a quick reaction! Did he manage to notice my attack? Netero's eyes flashed with surprise. Only a few people can avoid his 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva strike, and he can count them on one hand. Unless he foresaw this attack, it's almost impossible to avoid it. But Allan did it, which shows his great ability to predict his opponent's moves and his great reflexes. Otherwise, even if he managed to predict the attack, his body won't keep up with his mind. Netero greatly appreciates Allan, and that's why he must finish the fight. Next will be a serious attack. Netero folded his hands together, and then each hand formed an orchid. Then, the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva behind Netero moved. Each palm of the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva was different. No matter how fast Allan's reaction was, Netero didn't think that Allan can escape. Netero raised his fingers one after another as the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva behind released a bright golden light. In the next instant, a golden wave of energy destroyed all of the mirrors in the room. Without the mirrors, Allan didn't have anywhere to hide. After pushing Allan out, Netero decisively launched a fierce attack. Although Allan was aware of the danger due to his observation haki, he had no time to dodge, and with a bang, he was bombarded and sent flying and finally the wall. However, Allan was surprised to find that his elementalization can't make him immune to the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva attack. At this moment, Netero sent another attack, and the golden hand slapped Allan. Boom! The was sunk before it blasted to pieces. Well! After this palm strike, Netero looked uncertain because he couldn't find Allan. Did I miss? No, it should have hit him. He couldn't have avoided it. Netero's face suddenly changed as Allan's figure reformed from the ice. This is... Netero looked at this with astonishment. Just at the moment he was about to get hit, Allan decided to try something. Since his body can't change into ice when he is hit, can he be immune if he turned himself willingly? He wasn't sure why his body doesn't react on its own against the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva, but when he turned into ice, the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva didn't hurt him. Maybe it was because Nen is life energy, Allan was sure. Netero suddenly said, "Allan, your ability is really convenient. Not only can you make ice, but your body can turn into ice as well. It seems like I have to show my real skills. Come on then, Chairman." Allan was also prepared to do his best. Glacier Dragon. Suddenly, an imposing dragon made of ice emerged out and charged out toward Netero. At this time, the golden light of the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva brightened as Netero waved his hand toward the glacier dragon like a knife. The glacier dragon was directly hit by the golden hand, and a loud bang resounded all over. Chapter 113, 8 Inner Gates Technique. Netero has lived for a long time, over 100 years, and his interest in most things already diminished greatly. There was only one thing that he was interested in right now, his pursuit of martial arts. Although Allan didn't satisfy him completely, it was a long time since he felt so excited about a battle. The battle between the two lasted until dawn. As soon as the first sunray pierced the sky, the battle came to an end. The outcome of the battle wasn't known to anyone except the two of them. However, for the next few days, Netero had a cold, while Allan couldn't move from his bed. The blows by the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva caused enough damage to crack his bones and tear some of his muscles. Through the battle, Allan realized that his devil fruit couldn't protect him and make him immune to Nen attacks. He needed to turn into his element on his own before he is hit, or else he would be hurt. Netaro's 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva was a pure Nin ability, which made Allan's elementalization ineffective. After the battle, Allan received his reward, the 8 inner gates. The gates were as follow. First gate, the gate of opening. Second gate, the gate of healing. The third gate, the gate of life. The fourth gate, the gate of pain. The fifth gate, the gate of limit. The sixth gate, the gate of view. The seventh gate, the gate of wonder. The eighth gate, the gate of death. Opening each gate would release great power. Allan wasn't a ninja and didn't have chakra, but since the system adapts every technique to him, each gate will release the energy contained in his cells. Therefore, Allan won't be afraid of death if he trained really hard to get his body to its peak and opened the 8th gate. The power inside his cells is different than chakra, so even if he exhausts it, he won't die but will only be weakened. A human's body contained 30 trillion cells, and since Allan's arrival to the Hunter x Hunter world, his body got stronger and stronger, and now, his body should have triple or quadruple that amount in his body. Therefore, as long as he got stronger, opening the 8 gates won't pose any harm to him. However, this didn't mean that he can use it constantly, as it always puts a great burden on his body. With his current strength, even without the 8 gates, Allan could count the number of people that could harm him on both hands. After resting for 2 days, Allan took Hancock out to try the power of 8 inner gates. He went to a rocky valley and stood on top of a rock. Not far from him, Hancock looked at him and asked, "Why did you bring this Empress here?" Hancock asked. "Just watch." As he said this, Allan clenched his fist and started concentrating on opening the first gate. Gate of opening, open. Allan gave a low shout, and suddenly huge energy burst out of his body. Looking at the stream of energy emerging from his body, Allan didn't panic. Instead, he was overjoyed. This meant that he succeeded in opening the first gate. Although it was only the first gate, Allan could feel that he became faster and stronger. The first gate is basically lifting the limit of the brain, making the body exert 100% of its power. In a blink of an eye, Allan crossed 10 meters without using any technique. So fast! Allan wasn't surprised. Allan couldn't imagine his power if he opened the 8th gate. Not far away, Hancock saw Allan's speed and the energy released from his body and was surprised. Allan decisively opened the second gate. Gate of healing, open. Allan's body released stronger energy, and the steam around him doubled. The second gate can lift the fatigue limit of the body and muscle, overloading the strength that the body can exert. Sure enough, Allan's speed doubled, and the fatigue caused by the first gate's opening disappeared. Allan didn't feel any pressure after opening the second gate, so he decisively chooses to open the third gate. Gate of life, open. After opening the third gate, Allan's body turned red, and a green light was emitted from his body along with the steam. The third gate was the last safe place in the 8 inner gate technique. From the fourth gate onward, the body could be damaged. Therefore, as long as he stays in the third gate state, his body won't be damaged. Allan was a lunatic when comes to power, and even though he knew that he could damage his body if he went further, he still opened the fourth gate. Gate of pain, open. After opening the fourth gate, the power and speed are greatly enhanced, but the body will be damaged from using it. Allan felt the pain in his body and gritted his teeth, but he was strong, and he wouldn't relent because of a small injury. Although he only opened the first 4 gates, his power increased several times over. Boom! 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 Allan suddenly moved around the rocky valley so fast that he seemed a blur to Hancock. He didn't use anything, no Soru, no flash steps, no Nin. All of this was pure speed granted to him when he opened the fourth gate. This power is great if I opened all 8 gates. Allan was amazed. If he indeed opened the 8th gate, then he wouldn't be afraid of Netaro's 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva. The 8 inner gate technique was a forbidden technique because it puts a great burden on the body and harms the user. Allan could cope easily in his current state, but if he were to open the 5th gate, the damage and pain he felt would be doubled. If he opened the 5th gate, he would reach the speed of sound. After closing the gates, Allan suddenly felt soreness and fatigue overwhelm him. Ignoring the fatigue, Allan felt hungry. Let's go eat. Allan took Hancock to the restaurant from last time. Although Hancock was astonished by Allan's power just now, she didn't ask him about it and just followed him obediently. The restaurant manager, Robert, was standing in front of the door, and as soon as he saw Allan and Hancock, he directly led them to the best table in the restaurant. However, Allan didn't notice that Robert ran outside after leading them in and made a call. Half an hour later, Allan felt full and directly took Hancock and went out of the restaurant. Before he got far, several black cars blocked the road, and dozens of black-suited men wearing sunglasses surrounded Allan and Hancock. Then a blonde young man wearing a white suit got out from one of the cars. This guy is surprisingly the guy Allan beat last time in the restaurant. The superstar Edward Wells. Getting out of the car, Edward was accompanied by men, one short and one tall. "Hi, don't think about leaving this place." Edward looked at Allan coldly and solemnly said, "This time, I will get my revenge." Allan didn't put this small guy in his eye, but he got annoyed now. He was in a good mood today, so he said, "I will give you guys 3 seconds to get out of the way." Hearing Allan's tone, Edward angrily roared, "Get him!" Suddenly, an invisible power emerged out of Allan's body, directly making all the bodyguards faint. Edward panicked and directly called the 2 men behind him, "Tall guy, short guy, it's up to you guys. Let's teach that brat a lesson and take his money," the short man said, and the tall guy nodded and ran straight toward Allan. Allan looked at them and knew they weren't normal people and were slightly capable. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Kill the tall guy in a second. Reward, 50 million Jenny. 2. Kill the tall man and the short man in a second, and eliminate the superstar Edward Wells. Reward, mysterious treasure chest. 3. Be a good person and let them go, then take Hancock away. Reward, a sports car. Chapter 114, Great Reward. Even if there was no system reward, Allan already planned on dealing with those guys. Watching the short and tall guys approaching him, Allan looked at them with disdain. They weren't worthy for him to get serious. After all, he is someone who fought a slightly serious Netero. Be careful. That guy isn't an ordinary person. Seeing Allan's sneer, the short man felt panic. He heard about Allan's ability to freeze his opponents or make them faint without doing anything, which he just witnessed. "Let me take the lead. I will hold him down while you attack from behind," the tall guy said. "Okay, let's do this." The short man agreed. Boom! An erupted from both of them, and their speed increased. They were both enhancers, and both were confident in their skills. Soru! Allan rushed up toward the tall man and appeared next to him. The short man's face changed as he shouted, "Be careful!" However, his reminder was too late. Armament type, hardening. Boom! Allan directly punched the tall guy, rendering his internal organs into mush, killing him on the spot. The short man's eyes widened and directly reacted. He realized that the person they wanted to kill was more powerful than they expected and directly tried to escape. Damned monster! The short man was scared. "You want to run?" Allan sneered coldly. "Let's how far you can run." Allan raised his hand and pointed it at the escaping man. Partisan! An ice trident appeared in front of him before he launched it at the short man, who tried avoiding it but was instantly frozen. Rankyaku! Allan sent a quick kick toward him, directly cutting the short man in half. The short fell down and shattered. After killing both short and tall guys, Hancock reminded, "That guy ran away using a car." Humph! He can't escape. Frozen ice field. From Allan's feet, ice spread out rapidly along the road, freezing hundreds of meters instantly. Soon, the road became as smooth as crystals, and Edward Wells, who drove away, was quickly overtaken by the ice. The sports car slid on the ice and directly slammed into a light pole. Edward wasn't seriously injured as he got out of the car. Allan flashed and appeared in front of him with his hand lifted up. Wait, I will give you money, just let me go, okay?" Allan snorted coldly. Regardless of Edward's begging, he will die tonight. After eliminating Edward, the system handed over the reward to Allan. Ding! You obtained a mysterious treasure chest. Do you want to open it now? Open it. Allan wasn't worried and directly opened it. Ding! You acquired special ability, Heaven's Eye. Heaven's Eye. Allan was surprised for a second. He didn't expect to get another Nin ability from a treasure chest. This was really unexpected for him. Allan directly used Nin and tried using this ability. As he activated it, an eye suddenly manifested above his head and floated in the air. Heaven's eye wasn't that of a human but more of a cat. This ability shared its vision with the user, so whatever the eye sees, Allan can see in real-time transmission. Heaven's eye can see 5 times better than normal humans, and it also didn't have any blind spot. In other words, I can see in a 360 degree. Those are the most important functions of Heaven's eye. It can be used for spying and detecting enemies, but it needed a huge amount of concentration, or else it will disappear. Allan concentrated and brought the eye toward the Hunter Association, wanting to see what Netero was doing. Soon Allan spotted Netero's figure on the 98th floor of the association building. He was in a meeting with Pariston. Allan didn't keep an eye there as he knew that Netero would definitively notice it. Netero's senses were insane after all. Sure enough, Netero turned his head toward Heaven's eyes, but fortunately, Allan already cancelled the ability. In general, this ability wasn't useful for Allan, but it's not completely useless. Allan remembered that he also had the magic jar. He took it outside and broke it. Ding! Congratulations on getting an S-Class Ninjutsu experience card. Allan was stunned. Great! I can use S-Class Ninjutsu. Allan picked up the experience card and couldn't wait to check it out. The ninjutsu in the card was Kirin, the lightning ninjutsu developed and used by Sasuke Uchiha. This ninjutsu was quite strong since it draws its power from nature. Allan was really excited about getting this skill. Right now, he had the Ice Fruit, Armament Haki, and Taijutsu and movement skills. Kirin is a great addition to his arsenal. Although he can only use it once with the card, Allan knew that having it is the same as having a killer move. When encountering someone he can't defeat, Allan can use this card which can seriously injure him or even kill him. 2 days later, Allan visited Gon and found that he had basically recovered from his injuries and asked Hanzo to help him with the discharge procedure. After leaving the hospital, Hanzo proposed a spar with Gon and made Allan the referee. As for why Hanzo wanted to compete with Gon, the former had 2 reasons. The first one is that he has been obeying Allan's order by accompanying Gon in the hospital, which was quite boring, so he wanted to vent this boredom on someone, and this person happened to be Gon. The second reason is simple. He wanted to see how much Gon can improve when he uses Nin. Allan knew that Hanzo was stronger than Gon initially. But since Gon learned Nin, the gap between them wasn't as big anymore. Therefore, Hanzo couldn't beat Allan instantly. In the spar, Hanzo was very aggrieved since Gon was so stubborn that he didn't admit defeat no matter what. However, the spar really opened Hanzo's eyes to the wonders of Nin. Especially since Gon was an enhancer, and after using Ren to defend, Hanzo couldn't even scratch him with his sword. This made Hanzo more determined to learn Nin. Allan didn't let them finish the spar since they won't give up anytime soon, so he ended it. After the contest, Hanzo asked Allan about his promise to teach him Nin, and Allan directly agreed and contacted Kurapika. A day later, Kurapika arrived with Leorio and took him to the hotel room Allan was staying in to take Nin lessons. Allan was looking forward to the rewards he will receive from the system when he teaches them the basics of Nin, like the flying slash from teaching Hanzo. When he teaches Kurapika and Leorio, he will get 12,000 points in Nin. This reward was already generous. Therefore, Allan naturally didn't spare any effort as he carefully tutored the 3 of them. As for Killua, since his father wanted him to return home, Allan wasn't able to teach him for now. Chapter 115, Spider Appears. Time flew by. 3 months exactly passed while Allan taught Kurapika, Leorio, and Hanzo Nin, and finally, they mastered the 4 basics of Nin. Allan received his rewards, which are the 12,000 point increase in Nin and the flying slash attack. As for the advanced Nin application, Allan didn't teach them that yet because Nin needs time and a gradual process of learning. Therefore, Allan believed that a strong foundation is the best he can do for them now. During this period, Gon wasn't staying idle as Allan took charge of his training to further his arsenal. Allan's special training was rough as he was Gon's sparring partner. At first, Gon couldn't keep up with Allan's speed, but he got better over time and could now barely react to Allan. This was a huge improvement. According to Allan, Gon's physical strength was now close to Killua. As for Hancock, she just always stood beside Allan without doing much, and after a while, she was interested in Nin. Allan was stingy and took the initiative to teach her Nin. Since her talent was extremely high, she quickly mastered the basics of Nin quickly. A few days later, Kurapika, Hanzo, and Leorio's training came to an end. Each of them expressed their sincere gratitude for Allan's teaching. At this time, Gon stopped his special training and proposed to Allan to go find Killua. "Allan, I'm going to find Killua. Are you coming with me?" Ding! Make a choice. 1. Accept Gon's invitation and go find Killua together. Reward, Taiga March of the Dead, Yutsufusa. 2. Refuse Gon's proposal and separate for the time being. Reward, Taiga Cutter of Creation, Extase. Taigu. Allan was extremely happy seeing the rewards. Both options gave him a Taigu. This means it didn't matter if he went with Gon or not. He will get a Taigu. However, now the problem was which one should he choose. Yutsufusa was a blade with a black scabbard belonging to Karame. Anyone who is killed by it can become a body controlled by its special ability. The limit number is 8 corpses. The disadvantage of this Taigu is the burden it puts on the body the more corpses it controls. The second Taigu was Extase. A scissor-shaped Taigu said to cut anything in the world. But only the inner blade of the Taigu can actually have the cutting effect. The disadvantage of this Taigu was its flexibility. After thinking about it for a while, Allan finally decided on Yutsufusa. Since he is a swordsman, he can use Yutsufusa better along with Shusui. When Gon heard that Allan was going with him, he was overjoyed. Since Allan is going with him, he wasn't worried anymore. "Kurapika, do you want to go with us?" Gon turned to Kurapika and asked. Kurapika shook his head and said, "Sorry, although I also want to find Killua, I still have things to do." Allan knew that Kurapika was going to find the Genei Ryuudan and didn't ask much. Although they had a teacher and student relationship and were good friends, Kurapika took his tribe's destruction personally and wouldn't ask anyone for help to achieve his revenge. "What about you, Leorio?" "Sorry," Leorio touched his head and said, "I still haven't finished my studies and can't accompany you guys." Gon sighed. He was too naive as he hoped his friends would go with him. "Hanzo, what about you?" "Well, let me think about it. I already got the hunter license, now I already learned Nen, so I think I should go back to the village." "Back to the village?" Allan asked. "This is where I grew and taught like a ninja. It's a very mysterious place. If you want, then I can bring you there to take a look." "Well, if I have an opportunity, I will visit your ninja village, Hanzo." Allan was quite interested in meeting the ninjas of this world. Hanzo said, "Okay then, bring Gon with you." "Goodbye, Hanzo." Gon and the others waved goodbye to Hanzo, who became their friend in the past 3 months. After a while, Kurapika also stood up and said, "Okay, guys, I'm leaving as well. Allan, Gon, and Leorio, let's meet again." Leorio also stood up and said, "Well then, I should go back to school then." Seeing them leaving, Gon was a little depressed. "Kurapika, Leorio, I hope we can see each other again." "We will." Kurapika and Leorio nodded at the same time, and Allan said, "Take care." "Well, you guys take care as well." Kurapika waved goodbye and left with Leorio. Gon was a little bit down because of this, so Allan directly cheered up, "Gon, today's separation is only temporary. You will meet them in the future. Everyone is working hard for their goals, so don't feel disappointed about that. Before you meet them again, you have to reach your own goal as well." Gon said, "Although I don't fully understand, I will work hard." At this time, Gon suddenly thought of something important and asked, "By the way, where is Killua's home?" "Leave that to me." Although Allan wasn't sure about the place, it wasn't hard to find the Zaldiks using his identity as a hunter. Allan also remembered the Zaldiks who lives on top of Kukuru Mountain. There are available transport means like trains and planes toward that place. But using trains or ships would take a long time, so Allan directly booked a plane directly. Although a plane ticket was more expensive than trains or ships, it didn't bother Allan. After buying 3 tickets for himself, Gon, and Hancock, Allan took both of them out for dinner. When they arrived at the hotel's lobby, the manager greeted them. "Allan-san, a lady just asked me to give you this." The manager handed a black suitcase to Allan. Although Allan was a bit confused, he took the suitcase. He was curious about it but didn't open it immediately. He looked at the manager and said, "Do you know where the person who gave me this suitcase is?" The manager said, "The lady left the hotel after giving me the suitcase and instruction." "Is she alone?" "Yes." "How long has it been since she gave it to you?" About 5 or 6 minutes. What are her characteristics? She is a very young lady wearing a light white short kimono with a purple belt around her waist. She is petite and cute. Hearing this, Allan nodded, okay, I see. After this, Allan took 10,000 jenny and gave them to the manager as a tip. After that, he looked at Gon and Hancock and said, Hancock, you and Gon go to the restaurant. First, I will catch up later. After saying this, Allan looked around the scare and didn't see any woman matching the manager's description. Allan directly activated his Heaven's Eye to look for this woman. He didn't activate it in the open since he needs great concentration to use it. Instead, he went into a remote place. The eye was like a drone that flew into the air, looking around. Suddenly, he found the woman outside a cafe 2 kilometers away, and when the eye was 100 meters away from her, Allan could clearly see the woman. His face was stunned as he knew who that was. That was Maki. Why did the Genei Ryuudan appear here? Chapter 116, Genjutsu. Allan didn't immediately cancel his Heaven's Eye. After observing Maki for a while, he didn't see any other member of the spiders. She was dressed the exact same way the hotel manager described her, which made him certain that Maki was the one who left the suitcase for him. But there is a problem. He didn't know what is inside the suitcase. Allan decided to open the suitcase and take a look. Even if there is something dangerous inside, Allan was confident that he could react quickly. However, it seems like he was overly cautious. After opening the box, he found money inside with a note. It was a message that said, I'm Krollo. These are the 100 million jenny that I promised before. Seeing the note, Allan remembered the deal with Krollo in the exam. Allan smiled. He didn't expect Krollo would keep his end of the deal and send 100 million jenny. However, the question was, why didn't the spiders give him the money directly? Allan thought for a bit and concluded that Maki didn't want to show her face. Allan directly put the money in his storage ring. After that, he looked at Maki again. Maki was inside a coffee sitting as if waiting for someone. She ordered a cup of tea and looked at the scene outside as if enjoying it. Just when Allan was about to leave, the system stopped him. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Kill Maki, and become an enemy with the Ryuudan. Reward, Paramecia Devil Fruit, Cut Fruit. 2. Take the initiative to talk with Maki and make her have a deep impression of you. Reward, Light Fruit Experience Card. What? Seeing the options, Allan was a little shocked. He wasn't Kurapika. There is no hatred between him and the Ryuudan, apart from the conflict with Yuvajin and Pakunoda during the test. Now, if he kills Maki for the devil fruit, it would just make him the Ryuudan's target. But he wasn't a demon who would kill needlessly. He could kill Maki easily, but he had no reason to kill her. Even if he got the devil fruit, he wouldn't be able to eat it since he already got one, and there is no need to become an enemy of the spiders. The second option was better since the reward was an experience card for one of the top devil fruits. Even if that ability can only be used once, it would be a good trump card. Therefore, Allan decided on the second option. Making Maki remember him and have a deep impression of him won't be easy. Even though she looked cute, she was cold-hearted. It wasn't an easy task, but Allan had a way. There are many ways to make someone have a deep impression of you. And Allan knew of those ways. But he still hesitated. The first method was rough and will hurt Maki to make her remember him, and the other one is sneaking toward her and lifting her skirt up before giving her butt a good slap and run away. But that would make her pester him almost every day, and it will cause quite a headache for him. It was the way to gain a stalker who wanted to kill you. As for crushing her using strength, it will make her uncomfortable, but it will make her remember him. Allan already formed a plan in his head and immediately released Heaven's Eye and walked toward Maki. Maki was sitting in a coffee, quietly drinking tea, and eating a dessert cake, but suddenly she noticed someone approaching. A handsome young man was approaching her. Allan stood in front of Maki and asked, "Do you mind if I sit here?" "I mind," Maki said indifferently. Although the young man was handsome and an ordinary woman couldn't resist him, she wasn't an ordinary woman. Allan didn't seem to hear her words and pulled a chair and sat down in front of Maki. Maki frowned and said, "There are many seats here. But I want to sit here." "I can't." Allan's willfulness made Maki unhappy. "I will give you 3 seconds to move away." "What if I refuse?" Maki didn't answer, but she started counting down in her head. 3, 2, 1. As the 3 seconds passed, she immediately attacked Allan. However, something strange happened, Allan's figure disappeared. Maki was shocked, and before she could react, she was horrified to find tree branches growing from below her and restraining her movements. In the blink of an eye, she was bound to a tree, completely restricted. Maki was surprised. Only a short second passed since she attacked Allan, but in that second, she was already bound to a tree. Allan used a genjutsu on Maki, tree binding death technique. To people outside, Maki seemed suddenly nervous, as if it was because the young man was pestering her. Allan was sitting in his seat without moving. Damn it, who the hell is that guy? Maki, who was still inside the illusion, couldn't help wondering as she tried to free herself. A dollar hole. Let me go. Maki angrily yelled. Allan smiled darkly and said, it's easy to do that, but let me ask first, don't you know me? I don't know, let me go. Maki gritted her teeth. If you don't know, why would you send money for Crollo to me? Hearing Allan's words, Maki was taken aback. She seemed to understand something and said, so you are Allan, the one Chief talked about. Yes, that's me, Allan said. Maki replied angrily, I'm just taking a trip to give you the money, Chief, promise you, and I'm not interested in knowing you, let me go. It's okay. You will remember me now. I don't want to remember you. Let me go. Maki angrily said. You don't have to resist, you must remember me. And in order for you to do so, I must do something. Allan took out a paintbrush and put it on Maki's face, drawing something. The people looking at the two just saw Allan get up holding a paintbrush and drew something on Maki's face. In Maki's mind, she was restrained by the tree branches and wasn't able to move. Maki angrily shouted, a dollar hole, what are you doing, stop this instant. However, even if she shouted with everything she got, Allan didn't seem to hear her. Don't get excited. I'm just doing some makeup for you. Allan smiled. After a while, Allan stopped his movement and said, it's done. It's looking good. A dollar hole. Maki's face was matching a tigress at this moment. However, no matter how fierce she wasn't able to break free from the illusion. Okay, I'm leaving first. By the way, if you see Crollo, tell him I've received the money. Allan directly turned around and left. He believed that with this, Maki would remember him. Soon after Allan left, the illusion holding Maki dropped. She glanced around and couldn't see any big trees around, and nothing was holding her from start to finish. She immediately understood what happened. She was inside an illusion. She felt ashamed. The more she thought about it, the more shamed she felt, and that shame quickly converted into anger. She looked around and found many people pointed at her and laughing. She took out a mirror and looked at her reflection, and found out that she was wearing smoky makeup. If it was pretty, she wouldn't mind it, but she looked like a ghost. Wiping off the makeup, she wanted to vent her anger, and she found a few people mocking her. In a few seconds, 7 or 8 people died. But it wasn't enough for Maki to vent her anger. A dollar hole, I won't let you go. Maki gritted her teeth and clenched her small fists as she remembered Allan's smile. On the other hand, Allan received his reward. Ding! You successfully made Maki remember you. Reward, Light Fruit Experience Card. A golden card suddenly appeared in Allan's hand as he glanced at it. This card can only be used once, and after that one time, the card will disappear. This experience card was very precious. If he used it casually, he would waste it. Therefore, Allan decisively put it away and saved it for future use. Allan walked back to the restaurant to where Gon and Hancock were and directly said, after eating, let's go and find Killua. Gon exclaimed, great. Hancock asked, did you find who gave you the suitcase? Yeah. Who? A woman. Hancock stayed silent for a moment and then asked, what is in the box? Allan raised his and said, are you curious? Upon seeing his smile, Hancock snorted coldly and said, if you don't want to say it, then forget about it. Allan smiled and said, well, I will just tell you. It was money. Money. Well, about 100 million jenny, to be exact. Allan laughed. The money Crollo sent was enough to solve their current need for money. 100 million jenny? How much is that? Hancock asked, and Allan thought for a bit and said, if you use the current from where you came, it would be around 100 million belly. Hancock nodded without asking again. She was an empress and had her own island. Let's not talk about 100 million. Even 1 billion was nothing to her. After eating, Allan, Gon, and Hancock returned to their hotel rooms and packed up their luggage, and directly made their way to the airport. Chapter 117, Kukuru Mountain. Allan looked at the time as they reached the airport and found out that there is still an hour before their flight. So, they just went to the waiting area. The technology in the Hunter x Hunter world was weird. They didn't have planes, but aircraft instead. In fact, there is no difference between a plane and an aircraft. Both were developed by humans to fly in the sky. Of course, the aircraft wasn't as good as a plane, but it was the main flying vehicle in the Hunter x Hunter world. At this time, Allan, who was waiting, felt a thin thread moving around. He looked up and saw a woman staring at him. It was Maki, who Allan abused in the genjutsu. Who is she? Hancock frowned as she noticed Maki staring from a distance as well. A tigress, Allan said. He didn't expect Maki to find him so quickly. She's coming, Hancock said. Allan looked up and saw Maki walking toward them. He knew that she wanted revenge, but he stayed calm as she didn't pose a threat at all. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Let Hancock deal with Maki. Sit and watch the two women fight. Reward, string experience card. 2. Let Gon deal with Maki. Sit and watch Gon getting abused. Reward, chop experience card. 3. Deal with Maki yourself. Reward, increase Nen by 3000 points. Allan chose the first option and looked at Hancock. Hancock, do me a favor and deal with her. Hancock said, why? I don't hit women, Allan said casually. There is no such thing in Allan's dictionary. He believed in gender equality, after all. If someone provoked him, it didn't matter if it was a man or a woman. But Hancock believed his words and stepped ahead. What a gentleman. Okay, I will make an exception and help you this time. In fact, regardless if Hancock wanted to or not, as long as Allan gave his order, she wouldn't be able to refuse. However, Allan didn't do this. After the time he spent with Hancock, their relationship improved a lot, and Allan no longer controlled her forcibly. Hancock's willingness to help was the biggest proof. Seeing Hancock walking straight toward Maki, the latter felt ashamed. At this moment, Hancock beat her in both appearance and figure. She was like a small star beside the moon. She seemed insignificant. At this moment, Hancock said, "What do you want?" Maki looked at Allan behind Hancock and said, "I want to kill that man." After saying this, she walked beside Hancock and prepared to attack Allan, but Hancock kicked. Perfume femur. Maki directly avoided the kick and withdrew. Hancock was a little surprised by Maki's reaction speed, but she didn't stop her attacks and kicked again. Maki moved away and looked at Allan behind Hancock. Allan was just sitting down and watching both women fight with interest. Seeing the playful expression on Allan's face, Maki was even angrier. At this time, Allan said, "You're not my match. If you want to get revenge, go and ask Krollo to come here himself. However, I don't think he will. At that time, be prepared to be wronged again." The so-called wronging Allan talked about was the genjutsu he caught her in previously, which made Maki seething. Maki gritted her teeth and said, "You wait for me, I will definitively settle this account." After saying this, Maki glanced at Hancock again before she angrily left. Hancock turned around and looked at Allan. "What did you do to that woman? She seems to hate your guts." Allan shrugged and said, "Nothing, I just teased her a little bit." When Maki left, Allan received his reward. This card was the same as the other one. He could use it one time for 5 minutes. As time passed by, their flight was ready as they boarded the aircraft toward Kukuru Mountain that belonged to the Zaldik family. After 2 days, Allan and the others reached Dentora region and directly went toward Kukuru Mountain. Kukuru Mountain was one of the most popular tourist sites in the Dentora region, as well as the home for the most famous assassin family. Although the Zalik was an assassin's family, they were different from others since they don't conceal their profession like other assassins. To outsiders, this family was very mysterious. Allan directly took Gon and Hancock toward the tourist bus, which was going to Kukuru Mountain. An hour later, the bus stopped in front of the gate on top of the mountain. Wow, the door is so big. It's so spectacular. Gon exclaimed. That's the gate to the underworld. The tour guide introduced it to the tourist, anyone who enters that gate won't come back alive. The tourists were dubious about what the guide said. Allan stared at the door as he knew that this wasn't the gate to the underworld but the testing gate. The reason it's known as the gate to the underworld by the outsiders is that no one can come alive after entering it. There is a scary large dog named Mike. Anyone who steps into its territory will be eaten. Okay, let's go to other sites, the tour guide said to the tourists. However, at this time, a few tourists ran to the gate. Wow, this door is too heavy. It seems to be made out of iron. A man tried pushing the door but couldn't make it budge. The remaining 3 people with him walked over and tried to push it together but failed. Damn, I'm exhausted. Damn, I used all of my strength. What kind of door is this heavy? Some of them swore and kicked the door in anger. Hey, what are you doing? Leave now. A middle-aged uncle in his 50s walked out of a small door and scolded the tourists. Damn it, old man, go away. One of the tourists replied. I'm the guard here, and I'm responsible for this door, said the guard uncle. So you're the guard here, then take us in, one of them said in a commanding tone. Hurry up, smelly old man. The others looked impatient as well. If you want to go in, push the door and go in. I won't take you in, the guard said unhappily. Damn it. You will take us in. The tourists glared fire at the guard. You really want to go in? Stop talking nonsense, and take us in. Well, I won't stop you if you insist on dying. As he said this, the guard took a key and threw it to one of the tourists and said, that key can open the small door. You can get in from there. They saw the small gate beside the testing, and gate ran over it directly. After a while, screams were heard from the 4 who entered the small gate. When the other tourists heard the screams, they were scared and directly fled. Only Gon, Allan, and Hancock stayed behind. At this time, when Gon heard the scream, he asked, what happened to those people? Hancock frowned and said, there is something big behind the door. What is it? Gon looked curiously. Allan said, a fierce beast. Yes, behind the door, there is indeed a fierce beast. The guard walked over and approved Allan's words. What kind of beast, uncle? Gon asked. Its name is Mike, and it's a watchdog raised by the Zaldik family. Anyone who trespasses will be eaten. Hearing this, Gon looked surprised. So, just now, those 4 tourists were eaten by Mike. The guard nodded, yes. That's terrible. Gon swallowed. Hurry up and leave us well. You can't stay here. Gon said, we're here for Killua. We can't leave like this. You're looking for Master Killua. The guard was taken aback. Why are you looking for Master Killua? We're friends, and I have something to tell him, so I come here. Gon replied honestly. What? Master Killua's friend? The guard looked surprised. How can Master Killua have friends? It's impossible. Believe it or not, we are here to find Killua, so we can't leave. Gon said stubbornly. Upon seeing this, the guard said, even if you are Master Killua's friends, it's very dangerous. You can't get in. You saw what happened to the few who entered. You will be eaten by Mike. I'm not afraid. Gon replied. The guard said, no one is not afraid of Mike. If you see Mike, you will be afraid. Anyway, I have to try. Gon said with determination. Wait, Gon, Allan said to Gon, and at the same time, the system gave him a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Help Gon enter from the testing gate and at least open 3 doors. Reward, increase NAN by 10,000 points. 2. Take Gon and directly bypass the gate and enter into the Zaldik's territory. Reward, mysterious treasure chest x1. 3. Break the testing gate. Reward, devil fruit, ancient Zoan Brachiosaurus form. Chapter 118, Testing Gate. Seeing the rewards, Allan was excited, especially the 3rd reward. Because as far as he knew, the dragon fruit, Brachiosaurus, was the fruit of Queen, one of the 3 plagues of Kaido. This fruit's defense and power were quite astounding, and it belonged to the ancient Zoan type. However, Allan chose the first option after pondering for a while. Although the ancient Zoan fruit was strong, Allan knew that Gon came to Killua as a friend. If he broke the gate, it would be like provoking the entire Zaldik family. That wasn't the development he was after. Allan directly turned to look at the guard uncle and said, "Uncle, if we open the testing gate, will we be able to go in and find Killua?" The guard replied in a deep voice, "If you can open the testing gate, of course, you can go in. However, this is Zaldik's private property, so I can't guarantee what will happen after that." "Okay, I will give it a try." Allan smiled and walked to the gate. "Little brother, are you sure?" Upon seeing Allan walking toward the gate, the guard couldn't help reminding, "There are beasts that eat people inside. I advise you to leave. Even if you go inside, it's impossible to see Master Killua." "Well, I'm already here. It will be such a shame to return empty-handed, right? Let me try." Since Allan was serious, the guard didn't say anything anymore. At this time, Gon asked, "Allan, do you want me to help?" Allan shook his head, "No, I can do it myself, just stay there and watch." "Okay." Gon nodded. Hancock said, "Do you want me to help? I can just kick the door open." "No, I can break the door as well, but if we do, we will become enemies to the Zaldik since we destroyed their door." Hancock didn't say anything else after hearing Allan's explanation. "Okay, watch." Allan took off his suit, rolled up his sleeves, and put his hands on the testing gate. After taking a deep breath, his whole body started exerting force. There are a total of 7 gates, and each one was heavier than the next. At this moment, Allan's muscles bulged out as he used all of his power. With a low growl, a blue aura surrounded Allan's body like a vast ocean. The first gate was opened. The second gate was opened. The third gate was opened. The fourth gate was opened. Allan directly opened 4 of the 8 gates and pushed the 5th testing gate. Since he achieved his purpose, Allan didn't continue with the 5th gate. Ding! You successfully opened 3 of the testing gate. Reward, increase NAN by 10,000 points. Allan instantly felt his NAN increase greatly and estimated that his current max was 80,000 points. As Allan let go of the gates, they closed with a bang. "Allan, you're amazing! You actually opened 4 gates!" Gon exclaimed with admiration. "It's okay if I worked harder, I could open the 5th, and a little more, I could have opened the 6th, and if went all out, I can open all 7. Wow, that's amazing!" Allan's words didn't just surprise Gon, but the guard was also surprised as he stared at Allan with an open mouth. The guard knew that each gate was heavier than the other, and each time you go up a gate, it will be double the weight of the previous one. The first gate was 4 tons, the second was 8, and the third was 16. Allan opened the 4th, which was 32 tons. This was already scary. But Allan actually said that if he went all out, he would be able to open all 7 gates. It's even hard for Master Illumi to open all gates. I'm afraid that only the Patriarch and Master Zeno could do it. And you actually said you could open all 7. The guard stared at Allan with surprise. When Allan released his aura, the guard felt amazed, but that alone wasn't enough to push the 7th gate. Allan chuckled, "I just feel that I can do it. I have to try to know if I really can do it or not." "Then, can you give it a try?" the guard asked. "No." Allan refused instantly. The guard was taken aback for a moment. "Why? Didn't you say you can open them?" Seeing Allan smile without saying anything, the guard touched the back of his head in embarrassment. "To be honest, I didn't see anyone open all gates before. If you can open them, I want to see it." Allan smiled and said, "Although I think I can open them all, it will consume a lot of power. I won't gain anything from that, so it won't do it." After hearing Allan's words, the guard didn't say anything else. He knew that Allan was right, the gates were heavy, and he wouldn't gain anything from opening them. At this time, Gon also walked toward the gate and said, "I will give it a try as well." Seeing this, the guard said, "Little kid, it's impossible for you to push it open, give up." "I want to try," Gon said stubbornly, completely unaffected by the guard's words. "By the way, uncle, how many doors can Killua open when he came back?" Gon suddenly turned around as asked. The guard thought for a bit and said, "When Master Killua came back, he opened the 3rd gate." Hearing this, Gon looked a little irritated and refused to admit defeat. "Then I won't lose to Killua." Allan saw that Gon was serious. He knew that Gon was irritated because Killua surrendered in Hunter exam. He didn't come here just to play with Killua, but to say that he won't lose. Gon was growing up, and he paid more attention to winning and losing. As Killua was his peer and was better than him, he naturally wanted to catch up. Gon put his hands on the door and exerted all of his power along with the nin in his body. Suddenly, a cloud of golden nin emerged from him as he started to push the gates. The guard looked at the aura erupting with Gon in the center, shocked. Boom! The first gate opened. Boom! The second gate opened. Boom! The third gate opened. With a full burst of power, Gon pushed open 3 gates in a second. Moreover, he was still pushing the 4th gate with all his might. This is scary. The guard was stunned, and Allan looked calmly as if it was natural for Gon to do this. After all, the current Gon surpassed the Gon that should have reached this place in the show due to his training. So opening the 4th gate was no longer a problem. Boom! Sure enough, Allan pushed open the 4th gate. He really opened it. The guard's mouth was opened wide as looked at the kid opening the 4th gate that weighed 32 ton. Hancock was a little surprised by Gon's performance and said, "That kid is stronger than before. Of course, he will continue to grow stronger in the future." Allan laughed. After opening the 4th gate, Gon stopped. He was breathing heavily as he said, "I'm so tired, this gate is too heavy." Allan patted his shoulder and said, "But you finally proved that you're not weak, right?" "Yeah." Allan nodded. At this time, Gon admired Allan even more because Allan opened the 4th gate in a second, and he could only do it after exerting all of his power. The guard came over and said, "Gon, you're so amazing. You actually opened the 4th gate." Gon said, "I just wanted to prove that I don't lose to Killua." "What?" The guard was surprised. Allan laughed. Gon just wanted to prove that he wasn't weaker than Killua, so he pushed open the testing gate. The guard was a little dazed. Allan said seriously, "Okay, uncle, we should be able to enter now, right?" Hearing this, the guard said, "You can open the testing gate, of course, you can enter. But that's the private property of the Zaldik family, other than Mike. There are many professionally trained butlers. It's best to be careful inside. I hope you can get to meet Master Killua smoothly." "Don't worry, uncle, we will definitively meet Killua," Gon assured confidently. Allan directly pushed open the 1st gate and entered along with Gon and Hancock. The 3 of them found themselves inside a forest. "Wow, is this a forest inside of Killua's house? It's so big." Gon looked at his surrounding with surprise. The place where Killua lives should be far from here. "Let's get through the forest first," Allan said. "Ah, look at that!" Gon exclaimed. Looking at where Gon was pointing, they saw a pool of blood and bones not far away. "It should be the corpses of the tourists who entered just now," Allan said. "Is Mike the one who ate them?" Gon muttered. "It's disgusting," Hancock said. Allan looked around and said, "Be careful, guys." At this time, Allan was vigilant and alert. He seemed to feel something and suddenly turned his head and said, "It's here." Roar! A huge beast suddenly appeared from the woods and stood in front of the trio. Seeing this, Gon was slightly stunned. Hancock looked somewhat wary of the beast. "This dog is really big." Allan sighed as he looked at the behemoth in front of him. This dog was Mike, the watchdog raised by the Zaldik family. At this time, Mike's scarlet eyes stared at the trio. Suddenly, a notification from the system echoed in Allan's mind. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Kill Mike. Reward, devil fruit, dog fruit, model, wolf. 2. Knock down Mike. Reward, devil fruit, dog fruit, model, Dalmatian dog. 3. Defeat and tame Mike. Reward, devil fruit, mythical Zoan, dog fruit model, Cerberus. Chapter 119, Mike. Seeing the reward from the system, Allan was surprised. They were all devil fruit, and they were all dog fruit with different models. He won't choose the first option no matter what. As the saying goes, only the owner can beat his dog. Since Mike was the watchdog of the Zaldik family, killing it was tantamount to slapping the Zalik family in the face. Allan didn't want to provoke such a troublesome family, and they came here to find Killua, not to start a war. As for the second option. What kind of crap fruit is that? A Dalmatian dog fruit, it was such a useless fruit. In that case, Allan picked the last option. He was confident that he could beat Mike, but he was unsure about taming it. At this moment, Mike felt Allan's eyes on it, and it hostilely raised its paw to flatten Allan and the others. Hancock and Gon directly jumped away. Boom! The giant claw made a dull sound as they touched the ground. Allan! Gon was worried as Allan didn't avoid the claw. Hancock on the side said, "Don't worry, he's fine." As soon as she said this, Allan's figure quickly reappeared. The elementalization of the ice fruit made him immune to physical attacks. Seeing this, Mike once again attacks Allan. Allan jumped high and appeared on top of Mike's head. Armament type, hardening. Boom! With a strong punch, Mike laid on the ground. Roar! Mike roared and quickly got up. Oh! Allan was a little surprised. He didn't expect Mike to resist that punch. Since one punch doesn't work, then try another one. After avoiding Mike's attack, Allan once again slammed a punch on Mike's head. Now that Mike stayed down, Allan only needed to tame it. At this time, Mike was struggling to get up as he glared at Allan. "Get down!" An invisible aura radiated from Allan's body as he looked at Mike. Facing the Conqueror's haki radiating from Allan, Mika felt a terrifying pressure and, in the end, it obediently fell to the ground. Its fierce eyes disappeared as it looked at Allan like a puppy. Ding! You successfully tamed Mike. Reward, Devil Fruit, Mythical Zoan, Dog Fruit Model, Cerberus. Hearing the system's notification, Allan opened the inventory to check the reward. Right now, a new Devil Fruit appeared beside the rubber fruit he already had. In One Piece world, each fruit could get them 100 million belly, but the concept of Devil Fruit is inexistent in the Hunter x Hunter world. So people won't believe that this fruit can give anyone powers. Allan was planning on holding an auction for the devil fruits that he obtained since he already ate one, and he could only eat one. However, now that Allan obtained 100 million jenny from Crollo, he wasn't short on money, so he decided to keep the devil fruits. Moreover, he felt that the devil fruits given to him by the system might be the pure version of the fruit, and maybe he can eat 2 or even 3 of them, maybe even more. Of course, this was just a guess made by Allan. The system didn't inform him of such a thing, and he had no one to ask. At this moment, Gon and Hancock walked over, while Gon looked at Mike on the ground then at Allan with admiration. "Allan, you're so amazing." Hancock glanced at Allan and said, "You used Conqueror's haki, right?" Allan nodded. "Well, only Conqueror's haki can tame fierce beasts." "What is haki?" Gon heard the new term and asked. "I will tell you next time." Allan didn't explain much. Instead, he looked at Mike and said, "Mike, take us to look for Killua." Hearing the name Killua, Mike roared. He obviously knew Killua seeing this reaction. Allan directly said, "Let's go." With Allan taking the lead, the 3 of them rode on Mike's back. Mike didn't seem to mind as it stood up and rushed inside the forest. Since Mike was too fast, the trio on its back could only hold tightly so they won't be thrown off. At this time, the butler of the Zaldik family was looking at the screen. He saw everything unfold and couldn't help wonder, that guy defeated Mike and even tamed it. Who is he? This man was Gota, who was responsible for taking care of Killua. Hearing the mutter of Gota, the butler next to him replied, "A few minutes ago, the guard at the testing gate informed us of them. These 3 are not here to make trouble but to see Master Killua." "Looking for Master Killua?" Gota frowned. "Yes, they claimed to be Master Killua's friends. According to the guard at the testing gate, the young man who defeated Mike is Allan, and he opened the 4th gate without any trouble." "What?" Hearing this, Gota stared at Allan in disbelief. "Unexpectedly, he can open the 4th gate in a second. It seems like he is quite strong. No wonder he was able to tame Mike. Just when did Master Killua make such friends?" The butler couldn't answer Gota's question. "What should we do now?" "Relax. Although he tamed Mike, he's absolutely loyal to the Zaldik family. You can go to the courtyard first, and I will report to Patriarch Silva." "Yes." At this moment, there were dozens of butlers in the Zaldik's courtyard. As for Gota, he headed toward the villa on top of the mountain to report about Allan and the others. Chapter 120, Kalito Zaldik. Mike was moving very fast. After passing through the dense forest, Allan saw a large villa on the hill where the Zaldik family resides. Seeing the villa, Allan couldn't help exclaim, "The Zaldik are really rich." The villa was built on a mountain peak, where everything there belongs to them. Wasn't that awesome? Soon, Mike stopped moving. Allan looked up and saw a courtyard in front of him. The courtyard was full of butlers and maids. About 20 of them blocked the way. Allan narrowed his eyes as he looked at the servants of the Zaldik family one by one and said, "We are here to find Killua. Please ask him to come out." A butler stood up and said, "Without the permission of the Patriarch, no outsider can enter the Zaldik's family ground. Since you're invaded this private property, you can't meet Master Killua." Allan shrugged, "So we won't discuss this. Just leave now." Just as Allan was about to say something, the system gave him 3 choices. 1. Get rid of the butlers. Reward, mysterious treasure chest x1. 2. Insist on staying until meeting Killua, and use the ice fruit to freeze the butlers. Reward, random skill card x1. 3. Turn around and leave. Reward, increase NAN by 2000. Allan thought for a moment before deciding on the second option. He didn't want to destroy the bridge with the Zaldik family, so he wouldn't just kill them. The third option is out of the question as well. Since they came all the way here, they wouldn't return without achieving their goal. "If we don't see Killua, we won't leave." Allan's words made the butlers gloomy. "Since you insist on not leaving, then we won't go easy. Do it." In the next moment, the butlers rushed toward them. Allan signaled to Gon and Hancock not to do anything as he jumped down from Mike's back. "You're nothing more than butlers in the Zaldik family." Facing Allan's provocation, all of the butlers and maids rushed toward him, but in a blink of an, everything was frozen solid. The butlers and maids turned into ice sculpture before they could get close to Allan. At the same time, Allan received his reward from the system. The reward was a random skill card that he could activate just by holding it in his hand. He can use the skill card without any effort from the user, which was the advantage of having it, but the skill card's cooldown was a week. The skill he got was called Gara's Sand Defense. The skill was quite good, and although its cooldown was 7 days, it can effectively save his life when it matters. Putting away the card, Allan glanced at the butlers and maids and then gestured for Gon and Hancock to move forward. "Allan, is it okay to freeze them?" Gon asked Allan in worry. Allan waved his hand and said, "It's okay, this won't kill them." Most people couldn't withstand his ice, but they were butlers and maids from the Zaldik family. They won't die from this. They only needed to melt the ice slowly or wait for someone to free them. Looking at the villa on top, Allan said, "Well, let's go. We're not far from where Killua is." Gon directly followed Allan along with Hancock. Simultaneously, in the villa, the current patriarch of the Zaldik family, Silva Zaldik, was talking with an old man. "Silva, what are you going to do?" The silver-haired old man asked Silva. "I will ask Killua first, then decide what to do." The silver-haired old man said again, "Just now, there is a report saying that the butlers and maids that were blocking them are all frozen in the courtyard. Now they are heading this way. It seems like they are quite capable." Hearing this, Silva was slightly surprised. "If you can, I will trouble father to deal with them first." "Well, leave it to this old man." The silver-haired old man was Zeno, Silva's father. On the other side, Allan, Gon, and Hancock already arrived in front of the villa. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind roared out of nowhere and swept toward the trio. Allan's face didn't change as he waved his hand and created an ice wall that stopped the wind easily. A girl with short black hair and wearing a kimono, holding a paper fan in her hand, came out and looked at them coldly. The girl was surprised a little when she saw Allan completely disintegrate the gust of wind without effort. Allan's eyes fell on the adorable girl that she can't be a boy. Gon on the side asked, "Who is she?" "Kalito Zaldik, Killua's sister," Allan said casually. Whether Kalito was a male or female, he wasn't sure, but she didn't seem like a boy according to her appearance. So Allan just said what he thought was true, and Gon won't believe him if he said it was a guy. "Killua's sister." Gon was a little surprised and waved at Kalito. "Hello, Killua's sister, we are here looking for Killua. Could you ask him to come out?" In the yard, Kalito heard Gon's words and snorted coldly. Instead of answering, she raised the paper fan in her hand and waved vigorously. The wind rushed forward fiercely toward Gon, but Gon didn't evade. Seeing the situation was getting dangerous, Allan was about to make a move, but Gon said, "Allan, please don't move." "Okay." Allan shrugged and stepped aside with Hancock. The wind was like sharp blades cutting Gon's body. Right now, Gon's body had a dozen of wounds, but Gon didn't find back. Instead, he accepted the attack head-on.